Simultaneous Transmigration, unstoppable from the enemy multiverse. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author, we are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 151 Seiya prepares to return to the Hidden Mist Village. The Sharingan ends at the Rinnegan, and the Uzumaki clan is a close relative of the Senju clan. Therefore, Nagato, possessing the Rinnegan, is considered the ninja closest to the Six Paths Sage. Planning for the Rinnegan requires a gradual process. Although the centenarian Uchiha Madara should be dead by now, Nagato's eyes are currently focused on too many people, so Seiya believes the time for his true resurrection has not yet arrived. With his current strength, and knowledge of Pain's Six Paths abilities, he might be able to fight Nagato on equal terms. However, Nagato has Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu at his side. Out of caution, Seiya believes he should remain in hiding, at least until more powerful figures emerge from the Heart Dream Zone before considering the Rinnegan. As for him now, with nowhere else to go, after some hesitation, Seiya decided to return to the Hidden Mist Village. To avoid completely losing touch with the ninja world, losing even the plot line and missing a possible chance for resurrection, he inevitably decided to continue as a ninja. A wandering ninja has no future. A defector ninja wouldn't be able to rise to the top, either. If you were to rise to the bottom, he'd just returned from Sound Village. As for a higher rank, the Akatsuki wouldn't look down on a third-rate ninja like him. A bloodline ninja might sound impressive, but with the exception of a few members of Akatsuki, no one else possessed a powerful bloodline. A former elite Jonin from Kirito? You're kidding. Akatsuki's approach is high-end. Without a resume as an S-rank defector, they wouldn't even consider you. So, after much deliberation, Seiya finally decided to return to Kirito to become a ninja. While Kirito, after the events of the Blood Mist Village and the death of the fourth Mizukage, was now practically the weakest of the 5 major ninja villages, it was still much stronger than the smaller ones. After all, it was his former ninja village, so Seiya made his way back to the Land of Water in just a few days. The Hidden Mist Village is nestled deep in the mountains of the Land of Water. Surrounded by water, its territory is often shrouded in thick fog, creating an isolated environment. Compared to other ninja villages, the Hidden Mist Village's geographical advantages make infiltration more difficult. However, as a former Jonin of the Hidden Mist Village, Seiya possesses numerous methods for sneaking into the village unnoticed. However, on this return, Seiya made no attempt to conceal his whereabouts, entering through the village's main gate with a swagger. Consequently, Seiya was quickly stopped by the 2 Chunin guarding the gate. The reason for their arrest was simple. Seiya's vest and forward protector clearly indicated he was a ninja from the Hidden Mist Village. However, as a Chunin guarding the gate, they knew nearly all of the Hidden Mist Village ninjas. Even if they couldn't name some, they had at least seen them. However, they had no memory of Seiya, a Jonin of the Hidden Mist Village, giving them ample reason to suspect him of being a ninja sent by another ninja village to steal information. Of course, if it were simply because of Seiya's poor disguise, the 2 Chunin duo, the professional gatekeepers of the Hidden Mist Village, wouldn't have been so decisive in concluding that Seiya is a ninja from another country. They would have concluded that Seiya was a fake because he claimed to be a ninja from the Kaguya clan, Kaguya Seiya, and a Jonin from the Hidden Mist Village. As Hidden Mist ninjas, they naturally knew the Kaguya clan's name, but they had been exterminated years before for betraying the village. Now, he claimed to be from the Kaguya clan, and a Jonin from the Hidden Mist Village. Wasn't that a joke? You're probably a ninja from one of the smaller ninja villages, right? Or perhaps a wandering ninja who makes a living selling information. If you were a ninja from one of the 5 major ninja villages, you wouldn't be so unaware of the Kaguya clan's genocide. That's right, and he's actually a Kirito Jonin. Do you know what a Jonin is? Do you understand how many Jonin there are in each of the 5 major ninja villages? That's hilarious. I think he really doesn't know anything. He just thinks that by pretending to be a Jonin, he'll gain more respect in the village and increase his chances of obtaining confidential information. It was clear that the 2 Kirito Chunin before Seiya completely misunderstood him as a clueless young man. However, just as they were about to take down this incompetent information ninja, Seiya suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had passed the two and appeared behind them. Oh no. This guy is no ordinary ninja, with a fast instant body jutsu. You just lied deliberately. Were you trying to show weakness to the enemy? Seiya's previous nonsense had caused the two KENREGAKure Chunin to really not take him seriously, thinking that he was just a third-rate ninja from some small ninja village. However, when Seiya suddenly appeared behind them, the two suddenly realized that his previous behavior might have been a deliberate disguise, aimed at lulling them into complacency. Okay, you don't have to make yourselves any more dramatic. I didn't lie, and I didn't use lies to show weakness to the enemy. Since you are also ninjas from the KENREGAKure village, this should be some kind of bloodline, right? As Seiya spoke, he stretched out two bone knives from behind and placed them on the necks of the two KENREGAKure Chunin. When the two Chunin saw the bone blade sprouting from Seiya's hand, their faces lit up with disbelief as they exclaimed, "Could this be the corpse bone vein? Congratulations, you're right. This is the corpse bone vein, the bloodline of the Kaguya clan. Being able to wield this bloodline should be enough to prove I'm a member of the Kaguya clan, right? And don't worry. Although the Kaguya clan once betrayed the KENREGAKure village, I'm not on their side. If you don't believe me, you can go find the fourth Mizukage now. No, that old man Yagura, who likes to play it young, should be dead. The one who calls the shots in the village now should be the master. Anyway, go find some of the village elders. I think they'll recognize me," Seiya said, lowering his bone blade and sending the two Chunin back to report. Seeing the two men running into the village in panic, Seiya couldn't help but sigh. Honestly, despite being resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, Seiya wasn't actually that old. He looked about 20 years old. Even factoring in the time since his death, he was only about 30. It had only been less than 10 years since his death, and the young people of KENREGAKure didn't recognize him anymore. Honestly, it was heartbreaking. While Seiya lamented that his former fame wasn't great enough, that there wasn't even a legend left behind in the village, within 10 minutes, several figures from KENREGAKure rushed towards the main gate. Chapter 152, Madarumi. Didn't Kaguya Seiya die a long time ago? After the death of the fourth Hokage, Yagura, the KENREGAKure, avoiding a major incident, kept the matter a secret. Perhaps it's safe to say that after the death of the perfect Jinchuriki, the KENREGAKure has fallen to the bottom of the 5 great ninja villages. Of the 5 great ninja villages, Konoha is undoubtedly the strongest. Even after the Second and Third Shinobi World Wars, Konoha lost most of its top fighters, but its overall strength remained firmly at the top of the 5 great ninja villages. Besides Kumagakure and Iwagakure, while not as strong as Konoha, their overall strength ranks second among the 5 great ninja villages. Previously, Sand Village was considered the weakest of the 5 great ninja villages. Due to its harsh living conditions, Sand Village was significantly weaker than KENREGAKure. However, things are different now. The fourth Mizukage was once controlled by a Genjutsu, leading to internal strife in KENREGAKure, which was trapped in a bloody mist and lost many bloodline families and outstanding ninja. During this period, the 7 KENREGAKure, the only prominent members of the KENREGAKure clan in the ninja world, perished or defected. Even the tailed beasts, weapons of war, were lost to the village after the death of the fourth Mizukage, Yagura. Simply put, the KENREGAKure is now at the end of its rope. If the news of the fourth Mizukage's death were known to the other ninja villages, how would they react? Every major ninja world war has been triggered by the death of a Kage. As the leader of each village, the Kage is not only a vital force in the village's defenses, but also the symbol of faith for all ninja. Without a Kage, the other villages, long at war with each other, would naturally not miss such a golden opportunity. If word of the fourth Mizukage's death were to spread, a ninja world war would undoubtedly ignite. The KENREGAKure is now at the end of its rope. If the fourth ninja world war were to break out, they would simply become prey for the other villages. For this very reason, the news of the fourth Mizukage's death has been suppressed within the Hidden Mist village. The current leader of the Hidden Mist village is the village elder, the Genshi, who is nearly 90 years old. Inside the Mizukage building, a woman with emerald green eyes, long, reddish-brown curly hair that obscures her right eye, pink lips, and a blue strapless dress, her figure akin to that of Tsunade, the ninja world's foremost nurse, was busy attending to official business. But then, 2 Chunin from the Hidden Mist village, accompanied by Anbu, hurried in. Madarumi is not yet the 5th Mizukage, but she does manage the affairs of the Hidden Mist village with the approval of the Genshi. Compared to other ninja villages, the internal situation within the Hidden Mist village is more complex. Due to the 4th Mizukage's bloody reign, the major families within the village now bear a certain psychological scar against the Mizukage. The 4th Mizukage, Yagura, was once a village hero whose presence brought an end to the bloodline war. But the Dragon Slayer eventually becomes the dragon itself. No one could have imagined that the 4th Mizukage, once a village hero, would bring Kirigakure to its current state. For this reason, while Madarumi now exercises the authority of the 5th Mizukage, she continues to assert her authority within the village. The master is not only the village elder but also its most respected elder. While he was willing to recommend Madarumi for the position, unfortunately, she lacked a strong standing within the village. Kirigakure's numerous bloodline families were reluctant to see a new Mizukage ascend. Furthermore, while Madarumi possessed ability, strength, and skill, she was ultimately a woman. Throughout the history of the major ninja villages, there had yet to be a female Kage. Therefore, despite the master's high prestige, he was powerless to succeed the 5th Mizukage. The Kirigakure Chunin, who knelt on one knee before Madarumi, wasn't a Kekai ninja, but he was one of the few members of Madarumi's lineage. He quickly and slowly recounted his encounter with Seiya. Kaguya Seiya, wait, I think I've heard of this person's name, she said, opening a nearby drawer and quickly rummaging through a pile of documents. It was quite natural for Terumi to have a memory of Seiya. During Seiya's active years, Terumi was also a member of the Kirigakure Anbu, so she had some impression of Kirigakure's ninjas. Although she didn't have much contact with Seiya due to her work in the Anbu and its secrecy, she had met him a few times and vaguely remembered him as a nice man. That's someone claiming to be Kaguya Seiya, is that him? After searching through the ninja's folders, Terumi finally found Seiya's information from back then and placed it in front of the Kirigakure Chunin guarding the door for him to examine. When the Kirigakure Chunin saw Seiya's photo on the file, he immediately started nodding his head like pounding garlic. The moment he saw Seiya's information, the Kirigakure Chunin was really confused, because he didn't expect that Seiya was actually a Jonin from their Kirigakure village. But the question was, why had he never seen Seiya when he was clearly a Jonin from Kirigakure? You have to know that he has been guarding the gate of Kirigakure for several years. If he is a Jonin of Kirigakure, he can't have been hiding in the village for several years without even going out on a mission, right? Could he be an Anbu? But that doesn't make sense. If that were the case, he would at least have a warrant scroll from Madarumi or Genshi. As if sensing the Chunin's confusion, Terumi Mei, with a gloomy expression, suddenly spoke in a startling tone, "It's natural that you don't recognize him. Kaguya Seiya was confirmed dead 10 years ago. So, if nothing unexpected happens, he's likely a ninja from another enemy village in disguise. But you just said he's indeed wielding the Kaguya clan's inherited core of blood. Well, let's go find out who he is." To confirm Seiya's authenticity, Terumi Mei even brought Ao, who had the Byakugan transplant, with her, and sent someone to notify the master. Meanwhile, Seiya, at the main gate of Kirigakure, didn't flee, but calmly waited until Terumi Mei, accompanied by several Kirigakure Anbu and Ao, arrived. Ao, a veteran Jonin of Kirigakure, knew Seiya. Upon seeing Seiya's face, virtually unchanged from 10 years ago, he froze in his tracks. "Qing, is he Kaguya Seiya?" Facing Mimi's question, Qing recovered from his surprise. "Both his appearance and his demeanor are exactly the same as the Kaguya Seiya I knew 10 years ago. But appearances are too easy to disguise in the ninja world." Byakugan, open. Chapter 153. Seiya regains recognition. Of the three major eye-related bloodlines in the ninja world, the Sharingan possesses the ability to see through others' movements and cast illusions, while the Byakugan boasts 360-degree vision and can directly discern the amount and direction of another's chakra, as well as the acupuncture points on their bodies. Changing one's appearance or form is surprisingly easy for a ninja, even a simple transformation jutsu can accomplish this. However, no matter how disguised a person is, their chakra remains unchanged. So, when Ao opened his Byakugan and gazed directly at the body resembling Seiya, a look of profound shock quickly crossed his face. Simply because, judging by the properties and flow of chakra, he could almost confirm that the Seiya before him was the Kaguya Seiya he once knew. However, the difference in chakra between the current Seiya and the Seiya he knew 10 years ago was truly staggering. How could one explain this? Under Ao's Byakugan gaze, he was stunned to discover that Seiya's chakra output was second only to that of the former fourth Mizukage of all the Kirigakure ninja he had ever encountered. The fourth Mizukage's chakra output was primarily due to his status as a Jinchuriki. Ao, what's going on? Which ninja village is he from? Seeing Ao's quizzical expression, Madarumi quickly had her ambush surrounding Seiya, even assuming a combat-ready stance. Don't act rashly. It may seem unbelievable, but the Byakugan confirms he's Kaguya Seiya. Seiya's chakra output was indeed significantly higher than before, but everything else was correct, which made Ao extremely puzzled. Kaguya Seiya was already dead, a fact that Ao, as a veteran Jonin of Kirigakure, knew. Of course I'm Kaguya Seiya. I thought you'd become blind after only 10 years, Aoki. Hearing Aoki's confirmation, along with Seiya's confident expression and familiar tone, Terumi spoke bluntly. Kaguya Seiya, the genius of the Kaguya clan, a former Kirigakure Jonin. But according to your intelligence, you should have died 10 years ago from a congenital disease. Seiya didn't get angry at Terumi's questioning. Instead, he casually spread his hands and said, I'm indeed dead, but I was resurrected by someone using a forbidden technique. The forbidden technique, impure world reincarnation, developed by the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, summons the souls of the dead, places them within a living sacrifice, and manipulates them to fight with the strength they possessed in life. The one who used impure world reincarnation on me was Orochimaru, an S-rank traitor from Konoha and one of the three great ninjas. He dug me out of the Kaguya clan's territory and used impure world reincarnation on me. Of course, I've now broken free from his control over the technique, so I'm currently free, because the information Seiya said was so explosive. Madarumi and the others were all stunned on the spot. Not to mention whether the technique that can resurrect the dead really exists in the world, they all remain skeptical about whether what Seiya said is true. Just as Seiya said, the caster of the impure world reincarnation technique can control the actions of the resurrected person, so how can they confirm whether Seiya is still under Orochimaru's control? First, while the practitioner of impure world reincarnation can control the actions of those resurrected, even erasing their consciousness, they cannot alter their thoughts. Secondly, you may think I've returned to the Hidden Mist Village with ulterior motives, but I can only say that the Hidden Mist Village right now has nothing worth caring about. After the fourth Mizukage's death, the tailed beasts are gone, right? After the 7 ninja swordsmen defected, only Haramejo remains of the 7 ninja swords, right? As for the so-called confidential information from the Hidden Mist high-ups, unfortunately, it's not even a secret to me. So, tell me, what is there in the Hidden Mist Village right now that I should care about? Upon hearing Seiya's words, Madarumi and the others fell silent. Though saddened, they had to admit that what Seiya said was largely true. Child, then, what is your purpose in returning to the Hidden Mist Village now? The question was posed by none other than the master, who was slowly approaching, supported by the others. When the master arrived, the others present, including Madarumi, consciously stepped aside. Although she now wields the power and duties of the fifth Mizukage, all of this is inseparable from the support of the master. Long time no see, master. It's so good to see you're still alive and well. Seiya also accorded a certain respect to the master, an elder who was nearly 90 years old and still devoted to the village. Just as the master, despite his advanced age, still shines for the village, as a ninja of the Mist Village, I simply want to continue fulfilling my duties as a Mist Village ninja. Of course, I don't want to hide this from you all. I also have a small selfish desire, which is that impure world reincarnation is ultimately just a false life, so if possible, I want to be truly resurrected. Hearing Seiya's frank disclosure of his ambition, everyone present in the Mist Village was surprised, but the master remained calm and said, you want to use the power of the Mist Village to help you achieve your goal? No, to be honest, I already have some ideas about how to resurrect. And to be frank, the enemies I will face in the future may not be something the Mist Village can withstand now, so I don't intend to drag the village down with it. After hearing Seiya's words, the master chose not to ask further questions, but continued with another one. Your Kaguya clan was once exterminated for betraying the village. Even so, are you still willing to come back and be a Mist Village ninja? When the master posed this question, Madarumi and the others who had been present earlier looked at Seiya nervously. The master's question was pointed and might even have led to a fight. However, to their surprise, Seiya responded with remarkable composure, finally sighing, I know my own people better than you do. If they were decent, I would avenge them without hesitation, even if it meant turning the village against me. But they imprisoned a gifted member of their clan like a pig. Even I, if I hadn't demonstrated my worth, would have suffered a similar fate. Such a rubbish family is better off gone. When I am truly resurrected, I will continue the Hyuga clan. As the saying goes, an elder in a village is like a treasure. Though the master, now nearing 70, may no longer possess strength, his accumulated wisdom and perspective are unmatched by the younger generation. Although the master's old eyes were slightly narrowed and blurry, their expression was unusually bright at this moment. After asking Seiya a few questions and confirming with his own eyesight that Seiya was not lying, the master spoke directly and said, "Child, welcome back to the Hidden Mist Village." Chapter 154. The fifth Mizukage was licked and felt comfortable. The master is currently the most respected elder in the Hidden Mist Village. While not the fifth Mizukage, his recognition of Seiya's status as a member of the Hidden Mist Village naturally means that no one in the village will question his status. However, as Seiya was once a prodigy of the Kaguya clan, even after 10 years, many of the village elders must still know him. Forbidden techniques like resurrecting the dead are still somewhat shocking, so the master proposed that Seiya temporarily serve in the Anbu. The Anbu, or Assassination Tactics Special Unit, is a special forces unit directly under the cage. Anbu members are typically selected from the village's elite ninja, primarily tasked with protecting the Hokage and preventing intrusions. Of course, the most important task for the Anbu is also the dirty work of assassinations and reconnaissance. Anbu missions are often extremely harsh or tedious, and are governed by 2 ironclad rules: leaving no body behind and destroying any trace of the body. Secondly, under normal circumstances, they must wear a mask during missions and are forbidden from revealing their true identities to anyone. It's precisely because of this need to conceal their identity that the Anbu is currently the most suitable place for Seiya. However, this is only one reason. Another is that the master hopes Seiya can become a pillar of support for Madarumi. As mentioned earlier, the master is optimistic about Madarumi succeeding the fifth Mizukage, but this initiative faces resistance within the village. Although Madarumi, with the master's approval, has been promoting a policy of peace and openness to gradually change the situation in Kirito, in an effort to dispel the fearsome political image of Kirito as the Blood Mist Village, this achievement alone is insufficient for Madarumi to ascend to the position of fifth Mizukage. Furthermore, even if she were to ascend to the position of Mizukage, she would be a figurehead, as the influence of the fourth Mizukage has largely waned. After deciding on their successor, the cage of any ninja village would always leave a certain foundation for the new cage to help them quickly establish themselves. However, the fourth Mizukage was first manipulated by a genjutsu, and after finally overcoming the effects of the genjutsu, he suddenly died under mysterious circumstances. Far from leaving any foundation or strength for the fifth Mizukage, the fourth Mizukage left behind a complete mess. Terumi Mei currently has too few forces under her command. The only one capable of fighting is Ao. Chijiro is still a child and completely useless. Seiya's arrival did give the master a glimmer of hope. After all, Ao had just told him that Seiya's current chakra capacity was only slightly inferior to that of a Jinchuriki. With a slightly inferior chakra capacity, combined with the Kaguya clan's skeletal veins, the master believed that forming a unique Anbu force with Seiya as the core would be a near-perfect solution for Terumi Mei. Seiya, I'll be grateful for your guidance from now on, since the village's most respected elder, the Grand Master, had chosen to trust Seiya. Madarumi naturally had no further objections. She didn't even consider Seiya her subordinate, instead extending her hand in a gesture of friendship. You're too polite, Madarumi. Since you've decided to return to Kirito, I will naturally fulfill my duties as an Anbu member. As your direct subordinate, I will also do my best to help you ascend to the position of Mizukage, for I believe you can lead the village to prosperity. Madarumi had initially expressed her goodwill toward Seiya, thinking they would eventually work together, but she hadn't expected Seiya to be so optimistic about her. Seiya, you're so smooth-talking and good at pleasing women. Before you died, you must have hooked up with quite a few, right? As if sensing Seiya wasn't a serious person, Madarumi jokingly offered a comment. No, although I am indeed handsome and a bit of a hipster, I have no experience in love before due to congenital disease. And what I just said was not meant to please you, But I sincerely believe that no one is more suitable to succeed the position of the 5th Mizukage than you." Hearing Seiya's serious expression that did not seem to be fake, Madarumi also began to feel strange. She was obviously not very familiar with Seiya, but the other party's confident tone was even more confident than her own. What the hell was this? "Thank you for your trust, but no major ninja village has ever had a female kage. That's not even important. A kage is someone who carries the will of a village and leads them forward. Gender doesn't matter, it's all about conviction. And I can sense your unwavering desire to make the Hidden Mist village more prosperous, so I'm certain you'll become an excellent Mizukage. A ninja village has never had a female kage? Isn't that even better? If you could become the 5th Mizukage, wouldn't that be even more groundbreaking? Seiya wouldn't be sexist. There were plenty of female ninjas in the ninja world, and even Kaguya Otsutsuki, the founder of Chakra, was a woman. The prerequisite for becoming a kage was being a ninja, not gender. And as a time traveler, how could Seiya not know whether Madarumi could become an excellent 5th Mizukage? As a member of the Anbu, he'd be hanging out with Madarumi from now on. If he didn't hug her long legs now, before she became famous, when would he? There was no doubt that Madarumi was quite pleased with what Seiya had said, and the look she gave Seiya was much kinder than before. Seeing this, the master nodded and smiled amiably. He had been worried that forcing Seiya to be with Madarumi would cause resentment on both sides. But now it seemed that the old man had been overthinking it. Compared to the master's pleased expression, Qing, watching the giggling Madarumi, was filled with a sour expression. It wasn't that he had any feelings towards Madarumi, but rather that he hadn't expected Seiya to be so good at flattering him. At this rate, his position as Madarumi's most trusted confidant would be in jeopardy. Everyone knew that Qing not only couldn't say nice things to please Madarumi, but he would even lecture her every now and then. The next day, all the ninjas in the Hidden Mist village received a message that the Hidden Mist Anbu had parachuted in a new Anbu captain. Due to the secretive mechanism of the Anbu, the people in the Hidden Mist village did not know who the other party was. They only knew that the other party's code name was Saint and the animal mask on his face was a dog mask. According to unreliable gossip, the reason why the new Anbu captain was able to parachute into such a high position was that he was very good at licking people's boots. Now, the top leader of the Hidden Mist village, Madarumi, was licked well, so the other party became the Anbu captain. Chapter 155, NERvGear is also going to participate in the Chunin exam? In the Hidden Mist village, at the Mizukage's building, a dog-faced Anbu ninja pushed open the door. Terumi Mei, previously absorbed in her duties, now asked earnestly, "How's it going?" Konoha has agreed, but the 3rd Hokage has stated that only one Jonin can accompany the kage as a guard when we travel to Konoha. As for the Hidden Mist Jonin who wish to participate in the Chunin exams, they must follow Konoha village's rules. Terumi Mei wasn't overly surprised by Seiya's response. A visit from another ninja village was a major event, and given the kage's immense power, Konoha would be wary. It was quite natural. Especially since the Hidden Mist village, along with the Sunagakure village and Konoha village, were 2 of the 5 great ninja villages and already had their own Chunin exams, it would be strange for him to not think twice about it, given the 3rd Hokage's suspicious and cautious nature. Because of its desert location and relative scarcity of resources, the Sand Village has always ranked last among the 5 major ninja villages in terms of ninja numbers. Given the village's limited number of Jonin, the 3rd Hokage's desire to participate in the Chunin exams with Konoha was somewhat understandable. But why would the Hidden Mist village also want to participate in the Chunin exams? You have to understand that compared to other ninja villages, the Hidden Mist village's Chunin exams are perhaps the most unique and brutal of all. While other ninja villages' Chunin exams assess a ninja's overall qualities, the Hidden Mist village's Chunin exams are quite brutal. A group of ninjas fight each other until only a certain number remain, considered passing. The Hidden Mist village enjoys a strategic location, surrounded by the sea. Despite the numerous ninja world wars and constant internal strife, its ninja population is still quite large among the 5 major ninja villages. And it's precisely because of this population advantage that they can afford to adopt such a simple and brutal Chunin exam. But this year, the Hidden Mist village expressed its desire to invite the Jonin of the village to Konoha to participate in the Chunin exams, under the pretext of friendly exchanges between ninja villages, and even the Mizukage will come to watch the ceremony in person. When the 3rd Hokage received a letter from Madarumi, he was obviously stunned. The land of water and the land of fire are very far apart. If it was just for the sake of sparring between Jinan, the cage of a village would take the trouble to come all the way to watch the ceremony. Sarutobi Hiruzen certainly didn't believe it. However, even if he didn't believe it, facing the request of the fifth Mizukage, could he, the third Hokage, refuse? Originally, he could, but some time ago, the fourth Kazakage of Sans Village also made the same request to the fifth Mizukage, and he, the third Hokage, had already agreed. If we refuse the fifth Mizukage now, things will become quite complicated. Isn't that obvious? You, Konoha, accepted the Kazakage's visit and the Tsunagakure Jinan, but rejected our Mizukage and the Kirigakure. Do you think Kirigakure is inferior to them, or do you think Konoha doesn't take us seriously? The third Hokage is old, no longer possessing the fortitude to fight for on his own. Moreover, Konoha is now in a period of transition, as if it had always been trying to avoid trouble by handing over Hyuga Hisashi to appease the Kumagakure. Naturally, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't refuse the Kirigakure's visit this time. The Kazakage and Mizukage planned to come together, and whether there was some agreement between the Tsunagakure and Kirigakure villages was unknown to the third Hokage. However, to avoid any unforeseen circumstances, the third Hokage imposed the additional condition that the Kazakage and Mizukage could only be accompanied by one guard. Refusal was impossible. If the leader of the 5 great ninja villages couldn't even accept a visit from the cage of another village, it would undoubtedly damage Konoha's reputation. Even if the Kazakage and Mizukage each brought only one guard with them, with ulterior motives, the third Hokage was confident he could handle the situation. Seiya, you will be the escort for this trip to Konoha to observe the Chunin exams. Ao is already on Konoha's blacklist due to the Byakugan incident. If you were to appear as a guard in Konoha, it could cause trouble. As for the Jinan team going to Konoha, let Chidro and the others go. While the Chunin exams aren't a priority, the Jinan of Kirigakure can't be outdone by Konoha or Tsunagakure. The trip to Konoha for the Chunin exams was actually Seiya's suggestion to Darumi Mei. Seiya also directly revealed to Darumi the existence of the Konoha collapse plan and the collusion between Orochimaru, the fourth Kazakage, and even Danzo. What? You're asking how Seiya knew the source of this information? Are you kidding? Seiya had been with Orochimaru for so long, so he'd have some special information. Isn't that perfectly normal? The fourth Kazakage collaborating with Orochimaru is undoubtedly courting disaster, and the seemingly powerful Konoha is plagued by internal and external troubles. With Kirigakure now weakened, the more chaos in other ninja villages, the better for them. Furthermore, this diplomatic mission to Konoha has another advantage for Darumi Mei. She can finally secure her position as the fifth Mizukage. A ninja village cannot survive without a cage. At least, they can't publicly reveal to the rest of the ninja world that Kirigakure lacks a Mizukage. A diplomatic mission to Konoha requires the title of Mizukage, and at this point, even if some of the bloodline families within Kirigakure still have objections, they can't stop Darumi Mei from ascending to the position. Don't let Darumi become Mizukage? That's fine, but the mission to Konoha will have to go to those who refuse. Don't think the mission to Konoha was a pleasant trip. Since the Kirigakure's top brass had held a meeting and learned the inside story of the Konoha collapse plan, they all knew this trip to Konoha was incredibly dangerous. If handled properly, they could indeed reap significant benefits for Kirigakure. However, it was Konoha's headquarters, home to the leaders of the 5 major ninja villages. If anything went wrong, Konoha's fate was not unthinkable. Furthermore, since Seiya returned to Kirigakure and joined the Anbu, he used his immense strength and skill to swiftly reorganize the Kirigakure Anbu. In less than a month, Seiya expelled all the spies and those who had taken advantage of the situation. Even the elders and higher-ranking officials who came to him afterward were eventually thrashed. Kirigakure's style has always prioritized strength over action, and they refrained from arguing when it came to it. Therefore, in a short period of time, Seiya completely unified the Anbu and transformed it into a force entirely under the control of Darumi. And it was only after they all received a good beating that the Kirigakure high-ups and the patriarch of the bloodline family, who had previously thought that Seiya had risen to power by flattering Darumi, now realized that Seiya was not just a pretty boy at all. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Reactions from all sides. Feng Ying gives himself up to death. Honestly, the NERvGear's higher-ranking officials and the bloodline families had no idea where this Anbu captain, codenamed Seiya, had emerged from. Even within the Anbu, the identities of their members were supposedly kept secret. However, since the death of the fourth Mizukage, the number of elite Chunin, not just Junin, has dwindled significantly. If their village had such a formidable Junin, even if he joined the Anbu, they wouldn't have been completely oblivious. However, Seiya's strength was formidable. Even after entering the Anbu, he maintained his position almost solely through his fists. Many of the NERvGear Anbu families had hoped to teach this idiot a lesson, forcing him to retreat. However, they were unable to teach him a lesson, and instead were directly taught a lesson. The NERvGear Anbu has now completely become the domain of Madarumi. With the support of the highly respected Genshi, even if they wanted to continue to prevent her from becoming the fifth Mizukage, they are powerless. Originally, they could still use the delay tactic, but now with inside information about the Konoha collapse plan, the NERvGear side naturally cannot remain indifferent. These cunning individuals in the NERvGear now want to profit from Konoha but do not want to take the risk themselves, so naturally, they have no choice but to allow Madarumi to become the fifth Mizukage. Because the land of water is further away from the land of fire, with only 2 weeks left before Konoha's Chunin exams, Madarumi left the NERvGear with Seiya and the 3 NERvGear Junin who planned to participate in the Chunin exams. There's no need to force yourself on this trip. If you encounter a situation where you're overwhelmed, prioritize your own safety. We in the Hidden Mist village can't afford to lose another cage. Receiving the bamboo hat symbolizing the Mizukage from the master's hand, Terumi Mei couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion at the worried words of his voice. Terumi Mei herself hadn't anticipated such a smooth transition to becoming the fifth Mizukage, and her first assignment as Mizukage was to be an envoy to Konoha village in the Land of Fire. The news that the fifth Mizukage also intended to participate in the Chunin exams with Konoha wasn't known to the Hidden Mist village until several days after Seiya and his companions left. Looking at the information she'd received from Konoha on the table, the fourth Kazakage, Rosa, couldn't help but frown. Ever since the devastating defeat in the Third Shinobi World War and the mysterious disappearance of the third Kazakage, life in the Hidden Mist village had become increasingly difficult. Inheriting a shambles, Rosa, the fourth Kazakage's successor, wielded the Golden Sand Jutsu, but their village was practically destitute. Compared to their own village, neighboring Konoha, though equally devastated by the Third Shinobi World War, enjoyed a year-round bounty thanks to its advantageous location and abundant quest resources. This situation only widened the power gap between the major ninja villages. Therefore, when Konoha's renegade ninja, Orochimaru, arrived, Rosa chose to partner with him and fight. Orochimaru was no good, as Rosa knew. However, no matter how dangerous Orochimaru was, he was only backed by the small ninja village of Atagakure. A powerful Konoha was the real threat to the Sands village. If they could defeat Konoha this time, it wouldn't be too late to turn around and take on Atagakure and Orochimaru. However, everything had been planned perfectly. What Rosa hadn't anticipated was that the Hidden Mist village, thousands of miles away in the Land of Water, was also planning to get involved. Was this just coincidence, or had the third Hokage sensed something was amiss and sought external help? If the former, then with the promise of certain benefits, perhaps they could even win over the Hidden Mist village, making the plan more viable. But if the latter, with Konoha and the Hidden Mist village, even if the Sands village cooperated with Orochimaru, the plan wouldn't necessarily go smoothly. Feeling uneasy, Rosa quickly unleashed his ninja hawk again, demanding a personal meeting with Orochimaru to discuss the twists and turns in Konoha's plan. Meanwhile, back in the Land of Rice, Orochimaru, having received Rosa's call from the Atagakure village, licked his lips and a sinister smile crossed his face. He had been brooding over summoning the fourth Kazakage, Rosa, to kill him and replace him, but now he was eager to deliver his own death. The so-called Konoha collapse plan was merely a cover. After all, if you want to kill someone with a borrowed knife, you need bait to attract others. While Konoha may be experiencing a period of transition, it still possesses a solid foundation. Orochimaru, a Konoha native, understands this better than anyone. Konoha's ability to survive multiple ninja wars is a testament to its strength and combat power. Only Rosa, the idiot, believes that Konoha can be brought down with a Konoha collapse plan. Danzo only cooperated with him to become Hokage. If Konoha were to collapse, he would still be a useless Hokage. From the beginning, it was only the Sand Village that believed this Konoha collapse plan could bring Konoha down. Orochimaru's goal was to kill the third Hokage and Uchiha Sasuke, who had awakened his Sharingan. Danzo, on the other hand, was just trying to seize the opportunity to criticize the third Hokage for his poor management and then seize the position himself. Orochimaru honestly found the Kirito's involvement in the Chunin exams rather odd, but he didn't dwell on it. After all, his goal from the beginning had been to kill the third Hokage, and Konoha's collapse wasn't of much concern to him. The major ninja villages had been warring for so many years, and Orochimaru doubted the Kirito was truly aided by the third Hokage. Would Konoha's collapse be a boon for Kirito? The fifth Mizukage? It seems the fourth Mizukage died at the hands of the Akatsuki. I hope he doesn't become ungrateful, or the Kirito will soon have a sixth Mizukage. The ninja world still believed the fourth Mizukage was in charge of Kirito, but now a new fifth Mizukage had emerged. Anyone else might not have understood what was happening within Kirito. But Orochimaru had been an Akatsuki veteran. The fourth Mizukage had once been the Three Tails Jinchuriki, and the Akatsuki had been secretly capturing the tailed beasts. The fourth Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village suddenly became the fifth Mizukage without a word. Is it hard to guess the reason? Lord Orochimaru, I heard you have something to ask me. Kimimaro suddenly opened the door and walked in. Kabuto has successfully infiltrated Konoha, and we are about to start our operation. Get ready and come with me to meet our Lord Kazekage. Chapter 157 The possibility of recovering the 7 ninja swords. Seiya, you put Chijiro and the others up at the inn and brought me to this place called Wave Country. It wasn't just out of boredom, was it? Wave Country is a small island nation once occupied by a merchant named Kirito. Of course, these things are important, but the key is the story of Wave Country. This is the first dungeon that Team 7, the protagonists, properly navigate. And the dungeon boss that appears here is closely connected to their own village, the Hidden Mist Village. When Seiya and Madarumi arrived at this small nation, Kato and his criminal gang had been defeated. The residents of Wave Country, led by Dasna, were thriving, building a bridge. Because Kato had recruited fugitive ninjas like Mamachi Zabuza as thugs, the people of Wave Country previously had little regard for so-called ninjas. However, since Kato, Zabuza Mamachi, and the others were defeated, and since the people who defeated them and saved the country were ninjas themselves, Wave Country's view of ninjas has changed significantly. Uncle, do you know where Zabuza Mamachi's grave is? When Seiya asked, the uncle from Wave Country who was building a bridge and Madarumi beside Seiya were stunned. Both the people from Wave Country and Madarumi naturally knew Zabuza Mamachi. The former was surprised by Seiya's question because he obviously didn't expect someone to come here to look for Zabuza Mamachi. The latter Madarumi was surprised because she didn't expect that Kiddo Zabuza, an A-rank renegade ninja from their Kirito and a former member of the 7 ninja swordsmen, would die in such a small place. When the uncle heard Seiya asking about Zabuza, he also realized that Seiya and Madarumi were ninjas, but he didn't know whether they were enemies or friends, so he looked at a loss at the moment. Don't be too afraid. We may be ninja, but we are legitimate ninja from the ninja village. Unlike those renegade ninja like the demon Zabuza, we don't kill innocent people. Seeing the panicked Wave Country residents, Seiya was still explaining when a bearded man wearing a conical hat rushed over, having heard the commotion. My lords, my name is Dasna, and I'm a bridge builder from Wave Country. The demon Zabuza you're talking about was indeed in Wave Country a while ago, but he's dead now, and his grave is located on a cliff here. Zabuza was defeated by Konoha's ninja, but it was Kato's men who killed him. Even his grave was built by Konoha's ninja of the time. Compared to the other, less knowledgeable Wave Country residents, Dasna might be just another ordinary person, but he had at least been to Konoha village. With a certain amount of insight, he immediately noticed the ninja forward protector Seiya wore, the same one worn by those who had once accompanied Zabuza. This meant that the person standing before them was a ninja from the same village as Zabuza. Dasna couldn't tell whether this sudden ninja was seeking revenge against Zabuza or a former friend, but he was clearly someone the ordinary people of the Land of Waves couldn't afford to mess with. So, if one listened carefully, one couldn't tell that Dasna's response was quite sophisticated. Zabuza was defeated by Konoha ninjas, and killed by Kato and his gang, who completely ravaged the Land of Waves. Of course, since Konoha ninjas had ultimately helped them, Dasna, out of humanitarian considerations, offered Naruto and his companions a few complimentary words. mentioning how Konoha ninjas had ultimately avenged Zabuza and provided him with a proper burial. I didn't expect that the traitorous ninja from our NERvGear would be killed by Konoha in the end. Hearing that Zabuza was dead, Madarumi was actually quite emotional and regretful. To be honest, if the demon Zabuza hadn't died yet, she would have been confident enough to persuade Zabuza to return to the village. After all, a big reason why the 7 ninja swordsmen of the ninja were sentenced to death was because of the various outrageous actions of the 4th Mizukage under the influence of illusions. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the ninja were an important fighting force in NERvGear, and their rebellion against the village had its reasons, so it is not impossible to be whitewashed. But unfortunately, Zabuza is dead now, and even if he was killed by Konoha ninjas, because Zabuza was a traitorous ninja, they in NERvGear had no right to ask for an explanation. We're a little late after all. Zabuza is fine, but it's a shame for Haku Mizunatsuki. That's a Kekkei bloodline of the ice release. Haku Mizunatsuki is the same age as Naruto and the others, yet she's able to simultaneously defeat 2 protagonists in their explosive state. In Seiya's opinion, both her strength and potential are quite impressive. Among the current generation of the Hidden Mist Village, only Chijiro is of any caliber. Seiya had originally envisioned Haku and Kimimaro forming a powerful Jinan team with him, but now it seems that plan has fallen through. When the two arrived at Zabuza's grave, a hint of surprise crossed Terumi Mei's face, initially regretful, as she gazed at the slashing sword beside it. While taking the remains of a deceased person might seem unethical, Terumi Mei had no qualms and chose to directly pull out the slashing sword from the grave. She also bluntly stated that the slashing sword originally belonged to the village, not Zabuza's property, and that she was simply reclaiming it. Of the 7 former ninja swordsmen, only the twin swords, Aoki, remain in the Hidden Mist Village, the others are nowhere to be found. For Madarumi, recovering the vorpal blade was a journey well worthwhile. Seiya, how did you know Zabuza and the vorpal blade were in the land of waves? Wanting to maintain her ladylike image, Madarumi temporarily entrusted the vorpal blade to Seiya for safekeeping, and upon returning, she asked her biggest question. Zabuza is a traitor, Orochimaru is also a traitor, and the ninjas in NERvGear are mostly traitors. In order to strengthen themselves, they naturally collected a lot of information about the traitors. After hearing Seiya's explanation, Terumi Mei's eyes lit up instantly, because almost all of the 7 ninja swordsmen became traitors after their defection, and if Seiya also knew the information of other ninja swordsmen, wouldn't it be? When she thought about the 7 ninja swords being able to return to the Hidden Mist Village, Terumi Mei couldn't help but get excited, so at this moment she looked at Seiya and said, then besides Zabuza, do you know, Thunderblade, Giga and Black Hole Thunderblade, Big Sword, Samehoda and Hoshigaki Kisame, I do know their information, so it shouldn't be a problem to recover Thunderblade, but as for Samehoda, it may not be as simple as you think. As for the Bakuto Fimo, the Blunt Sword Doujie, and the Long Sword Stitch, I suspect they might be in Konoha's collection vault. After all, the one who nearly wiped out the first group of the 7 ninja swordsmen was none other than the Konoha ninja, Might Guy. Chapter 158, is list a characteristic of the Hokage lineage? As the Kage of one of the 5 great ninja villages, Madarumi was a rookie, but she still had the presensive mind of the 5th Mizukage. To show Konoha village's respect for the Mizukage, when Seiya and Madarumi arrived with a NERvGear Jinan team, the 3rd Hokage personally went to the village gate to greet them with the help of several Anbu members. It's very rude of you to come and visit us, 3rd Hokage. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and greet us. The 3rd Hokage, who was wearing the Hokage uniform and a Hokage hat, looked at Terumi Mei in front of him with a kind smile and said, Mizukage, you are too polite. You have come from afar. As hosts, we should treat you with courtesy. But I didn't expect that the 5th Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village is actually an outstanding female ninja, and so young. The Hidden Mist Village is really full of talents. Everyone likes to hear good words when a sedan chair is carried by everyone, not to mention that the 3rd Hokage was a famous ninja hero in the ninja world. It was natural that Terumi Mei was very happy to hear his praise. The main reason I came to Konoha this time is that I've just taken over as the 5th Mizukage, and I wanted to visit other ninja villages to learn about their management methods. It's also Konoha's Chunin exams, so I wanted to bring the younger generation out to see the world. Hokage-sama, I hope you don't mind my uninvited presence. And this person beside me is Kaguya Seiya, a Junin from the Hidden Mist Village, and my escort on this trip. The 3rd Hokage personally came to greet Madarumi, partly to demonstrate Konoha's hospitality and partly to see who had arrived from the Hidden Mist village. There was no need to consider the 3 Hidden Mist Genin. With their strength, they couldn't possibly cause any waves in Konoha. The 3rd Hokage had previously only cared about the 5th Mizukage. Due to the Hidden Mist village's information blockade, the 3rd Hokage, like Raza, didn't even know the Hidden Mist village's Mizukage had reached the 5th. Since he knew nothing about the 5th Mizukage, the 3rd Hokage had come to greet him personally. However, he was surprised that the new Mizukage of Kirigakure was actually a young female ninja. Kirigakure is quite interesting. The 4th Mizukage is a young boy, while the 5th Mizukage is a mature woman. Is this a deliberate attempt to be different? Greetings, Hokage. Seiya didn't really have a great impression of the 3rd Hokage, but out of courtesy, he nodded in return when Madarumi introduced him. Although the 3rd Hokage was old, he still had good eyesight. From Seiya's simple movements and aura, he was surprised to find that the young Kirigakure Jonin in front of him was no ordinary character. This is Kakashi Hatake, our Konoha's Jonin. Due to my heavy workload, I simply cannot spare the time to show you, Mizukage-sama, around Konoha village. So today, Kakashi will be taking my place, showing everyone from the Hidden Mist village around Konoha village. If you need anything, please feel free to ask him, as Madarumi introduced Seiya. A masked, white-haired man with a dejected look reluctantly stepped forward at the 3rd Hokage's beckoning. The 5th Mizukage's visit to Konoha was a matter of public and private concern, and it was unacceptable for anyone from the Hidden Mist village to travel alone. Whether as a guide or for surveillance, someone from Konoha would definitely be accompanying them. Furthermore, the Mizukage's companion needed to be strong enough, otherwise the purpose of the surveillance would be lost. In the end, it was clear that Kakashi had become a forced laborer for the 3rd Hokage. Konoha's elite Jonin were practically countless. Might Guy was too reckless, Asuna was away on a mission, and Kurenaiuhi was training with her disciples, so the only remaining candidate was naturally Kakashi. Furthermore, the 3rd Hokage considered Kakashi the most suitable person to monitor the 5th Mizukage and his men. Not only was he skilled in his own right, but he also had experience in the Anbu, making him a natural attentive figure. It's truly an honor to have the renowned copy Nin Kakashi show us around Konoha. Hokage, please don't worry about us. Please go back to your work. Kakashi, forced into forced labor, though internally troubled by the supposed role of guide, appeared to be diligently guiding Madarumi, Seiya, and the others through the streets of Konoha. Along the way, they exchanged pleasantries, creating a rather harmonious atmosphere. But when they passed by a bathhouse and saw a white-haired ninja peeping in, and a yellow-haired ninja beside him, recording footage and performing a seduction technique in real time, they were awe-stunned. Konoha's ninjas are truly interesting, Terumi chuckled at Naruto, who had regained his original form after the seduction technique was removed. Not only did Kakashi, acting as a guide, put his hand to his forehead, but even the 3rd Hokage, who was also watching through his crystal ball, dropped his pipe. The image of Konoha village, so majestic, had been tarnished by these two. Upon entering Konoha village, Terumi had already removed the Mizukage's conical hat, as the cage wasn't required to wear a forehead protector. So, when Naruto saw Kakashi and Terumi, he thought the seemingly serious Kakashi-sensei was dating, and that this stunningly beautiful and well-built woman was actually his girlfriend. Teacher Kakashi, if you don't want Sakura and Sasuke to know that you actually have such a beautiful girlfriend, then take me with you to practice. Originally, Naruto wanted to use the seduction technique to let the lustful sage guide him in his training, but now that he has caught the handle of Kakashi teacher, he naturally prefers Kakashi to the lustful sage who seems unreliable. However, before he finished speaking, Kakashi appeared behind Naruto at an extremely fast speed and covered his mouth with his hand. I didn't expect this interesting Konoha ninja to be a student of Konoha's copy ninja. So that means that this little brat is also a member of the group that defeated the demon Zabuza. Madarumi also heard from Seiya who defeated Zabuza, so at this moment she was also looking at Uzumaki Naruto with curious eyes. That's right, although it was Kakashi-sensei who defeated Zabuza in the end, that mission would never have been completed so smoothly without the cooperation of me, Uzumaki Naruto. Big sister, did you also hear about our activities from Kakashi-sensei? My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am determined to become. This is the 5th Mizukage, from the Hidden Mist village, which is the ninja village where Zabuza Mamachi and his gang lived before their rebellion. Naruto was interrupted by Kakashi before he finished his self-introduction. And when he heard that the beautiful maid Arumi in front of him was actually the fifth Mizukage, Naruto was stunned where he was. Although he was a young man, he also knew that the Mizukage and the Hokage were of the same level, and the other party was a ninja from the same village as that devil's abuser. Could it be that he was here to seek revenge? Chapter 159 The Fifth Mizukage, You Don't Want To. Because of Naruto's incident, Kakashi obviously couldn't continue his shopping trip with Seiya and the others, so he sent them back to their resting place. It seems the quality of Konoha's ninja isn't as high as I imagined. Zabuza was actually defeated by a brat like that. Seduction is undoubtedly a public enemy for women. Although Maid Arumi had been smiling sweetly before, it was because she needed to maintain her demeanor as the Mizukage. But after returning to the inn, she felt that the powerful Konoha village didn't seem so impressive. Lewdness is a hallmark of the Hokage lineage. Without lust, one wouldn't be Hokage. Of the two ninjas we met today, one yellow and one white, the yellow-haired brat is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. As for the white-haired ninja who peeped into the women's bathhouse, I'm sure you've heard of him. He's Jiraiya, one of the three great ninjas of Konoha, a hero on par with Tsunade and Orochimaru. Jiraiya, one of the three great ninjas of Konoha, the one who looked so lustful earlier. The three great ninjas of Konoha rose to fame during the Second Shinobi World War. At the time of their rise, Terumi Mei was still a young girl. When Seiya revealed that the white-haired ninja who had peeped into the women's bathhouse was actually one of the once famous three great ninjas, Terumi felt her hopes shattered. Don't judge a person by appearances. Who says the image of the strong is necessarily radiant and majestic? Many so-called celebrities in the ninja world are just boastful. And I don't think there's anything wrong with men being lustful, Seiya muttered only halfway when he felt a deadly gaze from the side, and decisively shut up. With Jiraiya, one of the three great ninjas of Konoha, now back, the so-called Konoha collapse plan is even less likely to succeed. It seems that between Tsunagakure and Konoha, we and Kirigakure will have to side with Konoha this time. Before arriving in Konoha, Maid Arumi had considered what role Kirigakure would play in this Konoha collapse. Should they offer assistance when Konoha is under attack, or directly add insult to injury? Undoubtedly, if they offered assistance, the gains would be modest, but the risks would also be relatively small. After all, this was Konoha, not Kirigakure. If they sided with Konoha and lost, wouldn't they just run? As long as she and Seiya want to leave, neither Orochimaru nor the fourth Kazekage can stop them. And if they choose to take advantage of Konoha's misfortune, if they win this battle, then they will naturally make a fortune. But if they lose, the monk can escape but a temple cannot. Konoha is not the Sand Village. If the other party declares war on the Mist Village on this ground, can the Mist Village withstand Konoha's attack? Also in the meeting at this time were the third Hokage and others in the Hokage building. Because Jiraiya was discovered by the third Hokage, he was also called to the office and asked why he returned to Konoha this time. Jiraiya could only helplessly tell his former mentor the information that Orochimaru might be detrimental to the village. When the third Hokage again questioned the fifth Mizukage about his purpose for this visit and whether he had colluded with Orochimaru, Jiraiya shook his head and said, although I've gathered a fair amount of intelligence during my time outside the village, I don't know much about the fifth Mizukage. However, I can confirm that there likely isn't a significant connection between the hidden Mist Village, the Mizukage, or Orochimaru. Ever since his friend Orochimaru rebelled, Jiraiya had gathered a lot of intelligence regarding Orochimaru and the Child of Prophecy, and he had a good idea of who his friend had been in contact with. Orochimaru had been visiting the hidden Mist Village regularly for years, kidnapping people and digging up graves. It was a good thing he hadn't made enemies with the village, so the possibility of collusion was quite low. Hokage-sama, this Chunin exam has caused so much trouble. Why not cancel it? Since the Chunin exam was involved, and my guy and the others were both elite Jonin from the village and instructors for the Jinan taking the exam, they were also involved in the discussion. This time, the Chunin exams have invited not only Konoha and ninja from smaller villages, but also the Kazekage and Mizukage. Do you think interrupting the exams will be that easy? The Chunin exams will proceed as usual, but the village will be on high alert. Jiraiya, you will be guarding the village's main gate during the Chunin exams. The third Hokage took a puff on his pipe before making his final decision. Thanks to Jiraiya's intelligence, Konoha's security was significantly tighter during the Chunin exams. During the second exam, Orochimaru indeed appeared in the Forest of Death and attacked Uchiha Sasuke, implanting the Heaven's Curse seal on him. Since Orochimaru arrived quickly but left just as quickly, sending ordinary ninjas to pursue him would undoubtedly be a simple act of suicide. Therefore, Jiraiya was ultimately the sole person responsible for the investigation. During the third round of the Chunin exams, the fourth Kazekage finally arrived in Konoha. However, with Orochimaru already absconding, the Konoha ninjas, including the third Hokage, assumed the incident was over in a false alarm. However, to everyone's surprise, the fourth Kazekage, who had been sitting beside the third Hokage, suddenly attacked him mid-match. Before the Konoha Enbu could react, the third Hokage, the fourth Kazekage, and the fifth Mizukage, who had been sitting on the third Hokage's other side, were engulfed in a four-purple flame formation. Kazekage-sama, what are you planning? Observing the four-purple flame formation rising around him, the third Hokage was almost certain that Orochimaru was colluding with the Sands village. He simply couldn't understand where the fourth Kazekage got the confidence to defeat Sarutobi Hiruzen. Could it be that the third Hokage turned and glanced behind him, as if remembering something? He soon spotted the fifth Mizukage, standing beside him, equally astonished by the situation. Case solved. It seemed only the Sands village was colluding with Orochimaru's defector. The Mist village and the Mizukage weren't involved, so the situation was far from over. Sarutobi-sensei, you're still as hopelessly stupid as ever. With his goal accomplished, Orochimaru naturally gave up the pretense and ripped off the fourth Kazekage's skin, revealing his true form. Orochimaru, you're a traitor after all. You've planned so many things, are you just to trap me here, trapped you here? No, Sarutobi-sensei, my purpose this time is to bury you. Sarutobi-sensei, you're old. You don't think this time will be the same as before, do you? Upon hearing Orochimaru's words, the third Hokage fell silent. Indeed. If it had been 10 years ago, he would have dared to say that he could easily defeat Orochimaru, but now that he was on his last legs, his chances of defeating Orochimaru were slim. However, his chances of victory were not completely gone. Perhaps even Orochimaru himself hadn't expected that the fifth Mizukage would come to watch this time. Fifth Mizukage, how about we make a deal? If you're willing to help me kill the third Hokage this time, no, even if you're willing to just stand by and watch, then I will tell you the true method of resurrection through impure world reincarnation. Chapter 160, Seiya Solo Route Dungeon. Hearing Orochimaru's words, Madarumi was visibly stunned, and her expression quickly grew hesitant. The man accompanying you, the fifth Mizukage, was Kaguya Seiya, right? And since he's returned to the Hidden Mist village, you should be well aware of how Kaguya Seiya was resurrected, right? So, don't you want him to truly be resurrected? Your Hidden Mist village is in dire need of high-level combat power, right? And you, the fifth Mizukage, even brought him along on your mission to Konoha, which shows you have a good relationship, right? Honestly, Madarumi had already decided to side with Konoha from the beginning. After all, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the so-called Konoha destruction plan would be impossible without Jiraiya's premature return. However, faced with Orochimaru's current conditions, Madarumi remained hesitant. While the risk of teaming up with Orochimaru to kill the third Hokage was great, if Seiya could truly be resurrected. Mizukage-sama, do not believe Orochimaru's words. I'm sure you've already heard how cunning and dangerous he is. The fourth Kazekage here is Orochimaru, which means the real fourth Kazekage is probably in grave danger. Cooperating with such a treacherous person is undoubtedly digging one's own grave. Seeing the hesitation and struggle on Tarumime's face, the previously steady third Hokage began to panic. Already aging, he lacked confidence even against Orochimaru alone, and with the fifth Mizukage in tow, he would have no chance of victory. The third Hokage had no idea of the fifth Mizukage's strength, but anyone who could become the Kage of a village must have something special. Sharing the same sentiment, Orochimaru proposed a partnership with Ime. Arriving in Konoha, Orochimaru had originally made every effort to defeat the third Hokage. However, with the addition of the fifth Mizukage, he was concerned about potential mishaps. Hokage-sama, if I can assist you in repelling Orochimaru this time, I wonder what benefits Konoha village can offer us. The Hidden Mist village, faced with Orochimaru's offer, Madarumi didn't agree directly. Instead, she turned to the third Hokage beside her and asked. Hearing Madarumi's question, the third Hokage realized that getting something for nothing was impossible. If he couldn't offer the Mizukage satisfactory terms, the latter would likely defect to Orochimaru. If Mizukage-sama is willing to lend a hand this time, Then Konoha village can sign a peace treaty with the Hidden Mist village and return the 3 ninja swords that Konoha seized on the battlefield. The 7 ninja swords of the Hidden Mist village are renowned blades in the ninja world, but unfortunately, for those who don't know how to wield them, they are nothing more than ordinary collectibles. However, the 7 ninja swords held immense significance for the Hidden Mist village, and the 3rd Hokage believed this bargaining chip was sufficient to secure the Mizukage's assistance. Hokage-sama, the possibility of possessing just 3 ninja swords isn't enough. Furthermore, I also desire the impure world reincarnation technique. Of course, I can assure you that I will not use this technique against any Konoha ninja, and I will absolutely never teach it to anyone else. If Hokage-sama agrees to these 2 conditions, then the Hidden Mist village will offer its full support, not only to Orochimaru, but also to the Tsunagakure ninja who invaded Konoha. The impure world reincarnation technique was not only forbidden but also a secret technique recorded in the Hokage scrolls, reserved for the Hokage and his direct disciples. The 3rd Hokage understood that Maedarumi's demands were simply exorbitant, but given the current situation, he had no choice but to make a compromise. The reason Maedarumi put forward this additional condition was simple: she wanted to find a way to resurrect Seiya. Even if she did cooperate with Orochimaru, she couldn't tell if he would deceive her. So, why didn't she simply acquire the impure world reincarnation technique and then slowly research it herself? Previously, 3 ninja swords would have been enough to satisfy Maedarumi, but now that Seiya's resurrection was involved, Konoha village would have to pay a bit more. After all, compared to Seiya's importance, even 7 ninja swords, let alone 3, would pale in comparison. If Seiya were truly resurrected, wouldn't Maedarumi be able to get married? And most importantly, wouldn't the Kaguya clan continue in Kirito? While Maedarumi and the 3rd Hokage were trapped in the 4 purple flame formation, Seiya, enveloped in a puff of white mist, used a transformation technique to instantly transform into Orochimaru's form. Orochimaru transformed into the 4th Kazekage to attack the 3rd Mizukage, while he, in turn, took on his former form to attack others. This made sense, right? With many of the Tsunagakure ninja villages doing the same, Konoha was now in chaos. Even the heads of the major bloodline families had chosen to join the fight. Of course, there were those who sat back and waited, such as the man who had been taking the blame. The location of Konoha's root base was no secret to Seiya, a time traveler. With a war raging outside, the 3rd Hokage was even trapped within the 4 purple flame formation. The only Anbu ninja who remained stationary were Konoha's root ninja. Seiya had barely invaded the root, and many root ninja, sensing his presence, attacked him. Unfortunately, the power disparity between the 2 sides was so great that before these aggressive ninja could even launch a strike, they were swarmed by the bone spurs sprouting from Seiya's body. Wielding a bone knife, Seiya slaughtered his way through the ranks, but Danzo, lurking in the shadows, seemed remarkably composed and remained silent. Not until he had decimated nearly half of the root ninjas, and even nearly crippled 2 of Danzo's most loyal lackeys, Yamanaka Fuu and Amura Tajin, did he finally and leisurely emerge from before Seiya. "You're not Orochimaru. Who are you? How do you know this place, and who sent you here?" Watching Danzo slowly emerge from the shadows, Seiya slowly extracted a bone spur that had pierced the heart of a root ninja. Then, a look of amusement filled his eyes as he gazed at him. "If I'm not your partner, Orochimaru, who else could I be? I'm just using a different vessel. Don't forget, we were close friends, digging up the 1st Hokage's grave together and planning Konoha's collapse together. Now, Danzo, you're pretending not to know me, expecting me to take the blame for you. Shut up. There's no way you're Orochimaru. I don't know who you are, but since you know so much you shouldn't know and have come here, I'll just have to ask you to die. As for your origins and purpose, I'll search your corpse after you're gone." Although Seiya was aware of his secret collusion with Orochimaru, which surprised Danzo, the Orochimaru Seiya pretended to be was completely fake in Danzo's eyes. Not to mention that he already knew the real Orochimaru was now at war with the 3rd Hokage, Seiya simply couldn't imitate Orochimaru's sinister and perverted aura. "That's such a coincidence. Not only do you want to kill me, but the reason I came here is actually to kill you. Or to be more precise, I don't want you to die yet. I want to use you to accomplish something, and then I'll kill you." Seiya is looking for trouble with Danzo, not just because he hates him. After all, he is now a Kirigakure ninja, not a Konoha ninja. Danzo's thick face and black heart are none of his business. After all, the ninja has always been the one to screw over them. The main reason he is looking for Danzo at this juncture is because Seiya is attracted to his body. Bah, he is attracted to what is inside his body. It's my birthday today, so luckily I have posted the saved draft, otherwise tomorrow's update might be late. Chapter 161, The Pot Shadow Danzo with a high early drop rate. Think of Ao, the veteran Jonin of the Hidden Mist Village. He was blacklisted by Konoha for merely possessing a single Byakugan, and yet, that single Byakugan is now cherished by the entire village. But Danzo, before Seiya, possesses at least 10 Sharingans, one of the 3 great Taijutsu. All of them are 3 Tomo Sharingans. If all of them were brought back to the Hidden Mist Village, wouldn't a village leader simply assign the 5th Mizukage, Maid Arumi, to his care? Furthermore, in addition to these 3 Tomo Sharingans, Danzo also possesses relatively mature Hashirama cells and Uchiha Shisuzume Gekyo Sharingan. Seiya had previously stated that to fully recover from his impure world reincarnation state, he must rely on the power of the outer path, the Rinnegan. To use the Rinnegan, the powers of Indra and Ashura are indispensable. Seiya had previously wondered if Danzo could use the Rinnegan if he were to receive it. If possible, wouldn't that be considered a waste recycling? Of course, to use the conditions for Samsara, someone must possess Indra or Ashura bloodline. That's not a problem, though. Danzo still has Shisuzume Gekyo. Simply use Shisuzu's Sharingan to resurrect him, then apply Nagato's Rinnegan to him, and add some Hashirama cells from Danzo. Would all the conditions for Samsara be complete? Simply put, in Seiya's eyes, Danzo is now a treasure trove. After all, as a boss defeated by Sasuke in his skeleton phase, Danzo's drop rate is incredibly high. Seiya can't afford to mess with anyone else capable of dropping main Gekyo and Hashirama cells, so he can only bully Danzo. Wind style, vacuum ball. Seeing Seiya's gaze, as if he were examining a commodity, Danzo was enraged. He immediately formed hand seals and blew out a stream of wind bullets from his mouth. Water style, water formation wall. Seiya was a Kekkei ninja, but that didn't mean he couldn't use ninjutsu. Not only did he know ninjutsu, he also possessed 4 chakra attributes: wind, water, lightning, and fire. He had even mastered the transformation of wind and water attributes. Like a machine gun, wind bullets blasted towards Seiya with an extremely dense coverage, instantly blasting holes through the surrounding walls and ground. However, just as these wind bullets reached half a meter in front of Seiya, a water curtain shaped like an inverted bowl instantly formed in front of him, successfully blocking the incoming wind style. Wind style is characterized by sharpness, but even a sharp sword cannot withstand the constant flow of water. With Danzo's vacuum ball completely blocked, Seiya quickly changed his hand seals, and the hemispherical water curtain was pulled up as if by a suction force, quickly transforming into a ferocious water dragon. Water style, water dragon bullet jutsu. A roaring water dragon roared out, hurtling directly towards Danzo. Due to Seiya's immense chakra, the power of the water dragon bullet jutsu he unleashed seemed far greater than even a typical B-rank ninjutsu. Danzo took a deep breath and, though he also used wind style, vacuum wave, the water dragon, sliced in half mid-air, quickly transformed into 2 smaller dragons under Seiya's chakra control, continuing their charge. Just as the properties of wind style chakra shift to sharpness, and lightning style chakra to pierce, the properties of water style chakra shift to fluidity. As the saying goes, the highest virtue is like water. Flowing water can take on any form, softly embracing everything, yet constantly flowing. Even a drop of water can wear away a stone. Faced with the impact of the 2 water dragon bullets, Danzo was ultimately forced to dodge. The water dragon bullets, which landed in the air, not only shattered the rocks on the ground, but also instantly transformed the entire root base into a swamp of water. Watching the root base before him transform into water, Danzo's exposed eye was filled with astonishment. Such an astonishing amount of chakra, far exceeding even that of an average Jonin, clearly proved that Seiya was no ordinary figure. Having leaped up earlier, Danzo landed on the water again and glanced back at Seiya's position, only to find him vanishing. At the same time, Danzo, a veteran ninja, felt a sudden surge of alarm. Ding! Almost instantly sensing danger, Danzo drew a kunai from his waistband and instinctively turned to block. The next second, a crisp sound of metal clashing erupted between the two, accompanied by ripples on the water. Danzo was stunned to discover that his kunai had been cleaved directly by the bone knife extended from the other's hand. Tsubuki no Mai, Ranga, Kimimero's corpus velum merely harnessed the power of his bloodline, but Seiya was different. Seiya believed the Shikatsu bloodline was a practical bloodline capable of both offense and defense. This bloodline, capable of manipulating the body's bones, destined any Shikatsuki wielder to become a formidable taijutsu ninja. However, relying solely on the bloodline's power wasn't enough. Since the entire body could be transformed into a weapon, why not integrate it with both taijutsu and swordsmanship? The bones of the Shikatsuki bloodline were as hard as steel, easily overpowering most weapons. Combined with the sharpness of wind attribute chakra, it could practically unbreak anything. With his powerful bloodline, enchantments, and his own masterful swordsmanship, Seiya wondered who could withstand his blade head-on. After severing Danzo's kune with a single blow, the weakened blow only left a faint scar on Danzo's chest, but the powerful impact still sent him flying backwards. Watching Danzo's flight, Seiya didn't stand still. Instead, he released another blast of wind-style chakra, coating the bone blade in his hand, and struck again. A brilliant flash of white light streaked across the water, and the water on the ground suddenly split in two as if encountering a powerful resistance. The blade's light, enhanced by wind escape, even split the water's surface, leaving a deep furrow in the ground. Watching the slash, even more terrifying than the previous one, hurtle towards him as he flew backward, Danzo realized that with the speed of the slash, it would be too late to defend himself with ninjutsu. After a moment's hesitation, Danzo finally extended his right hand. Wood release, violent spear tree. Because wood release chakra was drawn directly from Hashirame's cells in his left arm, Danzo's wood release had the advantage of not requiring hand seals. However, its disadvantage was also quite obvious. If the power of wood release was used too many times, Hashirame's cells would become uncontrolled. Chapter 162, Domain Boundary Technique. April Sanctuary. A massive tree suddenly sprouted, blocking the wind-style vacuum wave unleashed by Seiya's bone blade. However, just as Seiya was about to cleave the tree, which the two of them could embrace, Danzo slowly untied the bandages wrapped around his right eye. The eye Danzo had been wearing was actually a Sharingan, and not just any Sharingan, but Shisun's main Gekyo Sharingan. Like Kakashi, he lacked the Uchiha clan's bloodline, so the transplanted Sharingan could not be deactivated. As everyone knows, activating the Sharingan requires a certain amount of chakra. It was a Bido's Sharingan that caused Kakashi to fall from prodigy status to a chakra-depleted individual. The Hatake clan's swordsmanship, for which they excelled, required limited chakra. While an inaccessible Sharingan wasn't entirely helpful to Kakashi, it was more of a burden than a benefit until he activated his main Gekyo Sharingan. After all, the Sharingan, a bloodline, has two completely different forms, the standard and the main Gekyo versions. Kakashi only had one transplanted Sharingan, and it was already a chakra measurement unit. Danzo possessed a double-digit number of Sharingans, so the burden on him can be imagined. The transplant of the first Hokage's cells wasn't simply out of ambition. Without the first Hokage's cells bonus, his chakra would have long been drained by the Sharingan. Instead of Izanagi, are you planning to use Shisun's Sharingan first? Seiya's face lit up with alarm as he watched Danzo remove the bandage from his right eye. Honestly, Shisun's Sharingan proved more daunting than Izanagi's. This was because Shisun's Sharingan possessed the Kido Matsukami, considered the most powerful illusion. Kido Matsukami's effect disrupted the opponent's consciousness, allowing them to be unconsciously controlled, securing victory without conflict. Of course, such a powerful genjutsu has its drawbacks, the extremely long cooldown period. Itachi claimed it took a full 50 years. However, for Danzo, who had transplanted Hashirame's cells, Kido Matsukami's cooldown period did exist, but it was far less extreme. It's also possible that Itachi's Kido Matsukami and Danzo's Kido Matsukami were completely different versions of each other. After all, Itachi's Kido Matsukami was powerful enough to even override the hints of impure world reincarnation, yet Danzo's Kido Matsukami controlled Mifune and was still discovered. A ninja who has been resurrected by impure world reincarnation is naturally resistant to any genjutsu. Even the Moon Eyes genjutsu used by Madara-sama Six Paths was ineffective against a resurrected ninja. However, Kido Matsukami was able to forcibly break the control. Logically, Seiya, now in his impure world reincarnation state, should be unaffected by Kido Matsukami. No matter how powerful Kido Matsukami might be, it's ultimately only a main Gekyo level illusion, while the Moon Eyes a Six Paths level illusion. If the effect on him has already been lifted, there's no way it can be reapplied. But theory is theory. Even if Danzo's Kendo Matsukami is far weaker than Uchiha Itachi, Seiya wouldn't bet against being affected right now. Summoning Jutsu. Heart Moon Fox. Zangulu. Biyuwu. Wei Yu Ian, Seiya, having bitten his finger, slammed his hand onto the water. Black seals unfolded around him, and a vast white mist instantly enveloped the area. It's not uncommon for some ninjas to contract with summoned beasts and summon them to aid them in battle. But Danzo had never heard of a ninja who could contract with multiple summoned beasts simultaneously and summon so many at once. To be honest, summoned beasts aren't exactly cheap, and the number of ninjas who could do so is definitely not that high. Seiya had now summoned 4 summoned beasts in one go, each of different types, which inevitably made Danzo feel even more mysterious about him. You're hoping to win by sheer numbers? But that won't work for me. Danzo, unfazed by the 4 summoned beasts, instead opened his Sharingan in his right eye. While summoned beasts are capable of autonomous combat and easily dispatch minor ninjas, when the intensity of the battle reaches a certain level, facing a truly powerful opponent, ordinary summoned beasts are nothing more than mere mascots. Previously, Danzo had considered Seiya a mere ordinary ninja, unworthy of using illusions like Kendo Matsukami against him. However, after a brief exchange, Danzo recognized Seiya's strength, and so he decided to use Kendo Matsukami to provide himself with an additional, obedient lackey. Kendo Matsukami's cost and cooldown depended on the degree of subtlety the caster imparted to the target. If it were merely a suggestion, interfering with the opponent's consciousness, the energy consumption would naturally be much smaller. However, if one were to subtly alter the opponent's mind, turning a former enemy into a friend, or even completely dominate them, the energy consumption would naturally multiply. Using Kendo Matsukami's complete control would be quite a challenge, even for Danzo, who had transplanted Hashirame's cells. That's why Danzo initially refrained from using Jinjutsu directly on Seiya. After all, he wanted to determine if Seiya was worthy of such a move. Oh, you think I summoned so many summoned beasts just to aid me in battle? Then you better open your eyes and watch out. Even Uchiha Shisa's Eye of Domination has weaknesses. The Magatama in his right Sharingan spun rapidly. Danzo, who was about to unleash Kendo Matsukami on Seiya, was stunned upon hearing Seiya's words. This opponent not only knew that his right Sharingan came from Uchiha Shisu, but also knew of Shisa's Sharingan's power? Who is this opponent? Uchiha Itachi? No, their fighting styles were vastly different. Furthermore, the bloodline the opponent had just employed was the Corpus Lee line of the Kirigakure Kaguya clan, not the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. Simplified domain, no, here, it's more appropriate to call it a barrier technique. Domain barrier technique, 4-moon sanctuary, compared to the simple 4-flame sanctuary Seiya had previously used in the Jujutsu world, the constellations forming this domain were the 4-moon reflecting constellations. As the 4 constellations formed a formation and cast the barrier technique, Seiya and Danzo were instantly pulled into another dimension. Compared to the 4-flame sanctuary, which resembled the flame realm, the domain formed by the 4-moon representing constellations was utterly pitch black. How dark was it? There was not a single ray of light anywhere, and pitch-black darkness enveloped the entire area. Cold, oppressive, and silent were the dominant tones of this domain. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Danzo, why do you know so much? Is this Tobirama-sensei's darkness walking technique? No, with Shisa's Sharingan, I can't be caught in this Jinjutsu without seeing anything. A normal person suddenly plunged into pitch-black darkness would likely lose their composure due to the loss of vision. But as an experienced ninja, Danzo, while somewhat unprepared for the situation, wasn't completely panicked. Darkness walking technique? Well, the effects are somewhat similar. But compared to the second Hokage's Jinjutsu, the one I'm performing is truly real, and unless you defeat me, you'll never escape this darkness. You can think of this technique as a special barrier technique I use in conjunction with my summoned beasts. Within this barrier, we've technically created another dimension. Hearing Seiya's voice from the darkness, Danzo immediately produced several shurikens and, as he flung them into the darkness, released wind chakra to increase their power. Ding, the result was obvious. Danzo's thrown shurikens were slashed away by Seiya's bone knife in the darkness. Wind style, vacuum wave. Watching the sparks fly in the darkness, Danzo unhesitatingly formed seals with his hands once again and blew out a series of vacuum slashes from his mouth, like a prodigy. Unfortunately, this time, although his wind style whistled in his ears, it seemed to have missed its target. Willow dance, second style, split wave. A cold, flat voice suddenly appeared behind Danzo. Almost as soon as he sensed danger, he felt a sharp pain in his left arm. Blood spurted from his shoulder as his bandaged left arm was completely severed by the bone knife. Feeling the excruciating pain, Danzo's face was filled with extreme horror. Although his vision was impaired, his previous test revealed that his other senses, such as hearing and touch, were unaffected within the barrier he was trapped in. Despite his limited vision, as a seasoned ninja, Danzo was quite confident in his intuition and perception. But just now, Seiya had appeared so close to him, yet he couldn't even sense his presence. It was simply impossible. Oh, I seem to have forgotten to mention that within this special barrier, besides my vision being impaired, my aura blends seamlessly with the surroundings. Simply put, you can think of this as a combination of the darkness walking technique and the silent killing technique. Hearing Seiya's voice again from the darkness, Danzo hesitated to attack, fearing it was another trap set by Seiya. A severed arm might be considered a serious injury for an ordinary person, but for Danzo, who had been transplanted with the cells of the first Hokage, as long as the wound could be healed, he still had the strength to fight. The key now was to immediately recover his recently severed right arm. To him, it meant more than just a right arm, it was his lifeline and ultimate weapon. While Shisu's Kendo Matsukami illusion was powerful, the Sharingan wasn't the Byakugan. Without the ability to see, or even determine the opponent's location, it was impossible to unleash its most powerful illusion. However, Izanagi was different. Because it was a forbidden technique performed at the cost of insomnia, it remained effective even with vision deprived. With the 10 Sharingans on his right arm, he had at least 10 chances to avoid death. If the opponent was unaware of Izanagi's abilities, he could easily resurrect and strike back unexpectedly, suppressing the excruciating pain in his arm. Danzo hurled several more shurikens into the darkness, then formed a hand seal with one hand and chanted, Ninjutsu, Shuriken multiple shadow clone jutsu. The shurikens flew in 2, then 4, quickly filling the surrounding area. Since he couldn't pinpoint Seiya's exact location, he could only resort to a wide area attack. Of course, Danzo didn't expect such an attack to defeat Seiya. His chakra consumption on such a futile move was primarily intended to distract Seiya, allowing him to retrieve his previously severed arm. Though shrouded in pitch-black darkness, Danzo vaguely remembered that his previously severed arm must have flown not far from him. However, just as he groped around and quickly found a sliver, he was about to rejoice when he realized something was completely wrong. It felt cold and hard, like nothing on his severed arm, but rather like bone. Corpse bone vein, skeleton jutsu. In the darkness, Danzo reached out and touched the bone spur, which suddenly expanded at breakneck speed within his hand and pierced through his arm. At the same time, sharp bone spurs suddenly sprouted from the ground beneath his feet, piercing his feet and pinning his body. The pitch-black darkness gradually dissipated like ink, and Seiya slowly reappeared before Danzo, reaching out a hand to grab his right eye. Seeing Seiya's movements, Danzo, convinced he was doomed, immediately prepared to activate his inner four-symbol seal. However, ready to drag Seiya along with him, Danzo's urge failed as he discovered his inner four-symbol seal wouldn't activate. If you want to use the inner four-symbol seal to perish with me, take a good look at your body. Hearing Seiya's warning, Danzo lowered his head with difficulty. He was immediately shocked to discover that the wounds pierced by the bone spurs were now covered in black curse marks, like tadpole script. On my jutsu, no, a sealing jutsu, the yin-yang curse seal. You were the first to be hit by the sealing jutsu. Now, let alone the inner four-symbol seal, even if the Sharingan on your right arm is still there, you can't activate Izanagi. Hearing what Seiya said at this moment, Danzo's expression suddenly became more astonished and he said, "You know Izanagi? You also know that I have a Sharingan on my right arm, Seiya, isn't this nonsense? If I didn't know about the Sharingan and Izanagi on your left arm, why would I go to so much trouble to cut off your arm? After all, the price of Izanagi is the permanent blindness of one Sharingan. Now that a Sharingan is used, there is one less. These are now my trophies, and I naturally can't let you waste them." Chapter 164, Water and Fire Twin Shadows versus the first and second generation Hokage. After hearing Seiya's words, Danzo was practically suffocated. He had never imagined that he had exterminated the Uchiha clan to collect the Sharingan, dug up the first Hokage's grave, and obtained Hashirame's cells, only to have all of this become a wedding dress for someone else. Who the hell are you? Even Orochimaru and Uchiha Itachi couldn't possibly know so much. Danzo could assume that Shisa's Sharingan knowledge came from Uchiha Itachi, and that the first Hokage's cells were information obtained from Orochimaru. But the fact that he even knew about Izanagi and the Four Elements seal was beyond comprehension. After all, even his closest confidants were unaware of such secrets, secrets that only he could possibly know, yet Seiya knew them so clearly. Danzo had considered Seiya to be a member of Orochimaru and Uchiha Itachi's staff, and even considered him to be sent by the third Hokage, but he secretly dismissed these ideas until the very end. The reason was simple: even the third Hokage couldn't possibly know so many of his secrets. Not only was his origin mysterious, but he also seemed to know him intimately. Whether it was Kido Matsukami or Izanagi, he seemed to have known him for a long time, and he came prepared. "You'll understand me later, but unfortunately, not now," Seiya said, slowly extending his hand toward Danzo's right eye. Seeing the hand enlarging in his sight, Danzo wanted to resist, but he was powerless. "Danzo, be my lackey." Kido Matsukami, on a rooftop at the Chunin exam venue, trapped within the Four Purple Flames formation, Madarumi sprinted across the water at breakneck speed, continuously spitting sharp water blades from her mouth, slicing the massive, spreading tree roots into pieces. "Hokage-sama, doesn't this impure world reincarnation technique have any weaknesses?" The third Hokage hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing to the terms of the deal proposed by Madarumi. However, what Madarumi and the third Hokage didn't anticipate was that, just as they aligned themselves, Orochimaru also demonstrated his impure world reincarnation technique, summoning the first and second Hokage. Initially favoring 2 against 1, the situation was instantly reversed after the first and second Hokage's impure world reincarnation. While Orochimaru's current impure world reincarnation technique was far less sophisticated than the improved version employed by Giruko, the first and second Hokage's summoned abilities were no match for their peak strength. Even if their abilities were only a fraction of their full power, they were still the first and second Hokage. Even though they were both Kage, the value of each was vastly different. The third Hokage is now an old man with 1 foot halfway to death, while Madarumi, as the Mizukage, is a complete rookie. To put it mildly, it's now a 2 Kage versus 2 Kage situation. But any discerning eye can see that the two are fundamentally different in terms of their power levels. Let's not even talk about the hexagonal ninja genius, Tobirama Senju, who developed numerous forbidden techniques, mastering ninjutsu, swordsmanship, and even jinjutsu. The first Hokage, Hoshirama Senju, is known as the god of ninja, a man who single-handedly conquered the entire ninja world. Facing such a formidable foe, Madarumi would be lying if she said she wasn't feeling any pressure. Water style, water rush wave, following the first Hokage's tree realm advent. The second Hokage's most skilled water-based ninjutsu followed. Compared to the first Hokage, known for his chakra pulling technique, the second Hokage is arguably more famous for his water-based ninjutsu and flying thunder god technique. However, this doesn't mean the second Hokage possesses a low chakra capacity. Senju Tobirama's chakra capacity might not compare to that of his elder brother, Senju Hoshirama, but don't forget he's also a member of the Senju clan, and his water-based ninjutsu is comparable to sea-based ninjutsu for most ordinary ninja. Earth-based ninjutsu, Earth Flow Wall, facing the torrent of water unleashed by the second Hokage, the third Hokage quickly used earth-based ninjutsu to block it. However, a wall of rock several meters suddenly rising from the ground, while resisting the second Hokage's attack, was ultimately completely crushed, transforming the surrounding area into a swamp. Monkey, you're still old after all. Even resisting this level of ninjutsu is so difficult. Orochimaru hadn't yet stripped the first and second Hokage of their consciousness, merely controlling their battle. Seeing the third Hokage gasping for breath after merely blocking one of his water-based ninjutsu, he couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. Tobirama, you're giving Monkey too much trouble. Don't you see he's already quite old? I didn't expect that little brat to be so resilient. He must be older now than all of us combined, right? It's just a shame. If Monkey hadn't thought of a way to stop us, we might have beaten him to death today. Ha 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 ha. Hearing the heartless laughter behind him, A frown appeared on Senju Tobirama's forehead. Then, with a look of dissatisfaction, he turned to his eldest brother and said, "Brother, do you realize the seriousness of this situation? Monkey is the village Hokage. If he dies here, Konoha village will inevitably fall into chaos. And since Monkey is still Hokage at this age, it means that Konoha village may have reached a period of transition." Compared to the thick-skinned and heartless Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobirama was clearly the smart one. From the moment he was summoned by the impure world reincarnation technique, combined with what he had witnessed, Senju Tobirama could already discern that Konoha was significantly weaker than before. The impure world reincarnation technique was developed by him and recorded in the Naruto scroll. He and his elder brother had now been summoned by this technique. There were only two possibilities: either the Naruto scroll had been lost and found by someone else, or the one who summoned them was a former Konoha ninja, a once highly regarded one, as ordinary Konoha ninjas were not worthy of access to the Naruto scroll. I have failed the trust placed in me by the first and second Hokages. Konoha has suffered this disaster, and the peace has been disturbed. I bear the greatest responsibility. Hearing the third Hokage's words, Senju Tobirama understood. It seemed the ninja who summoned them was likely from their lineage, perhaps even a disciple of Monkey. Monkey, I won't say anything more. The weakness of the impure world reincarnation is also very obvious. Either we use the sealing technique to seal us, or we defeat the caster. There is no other way. Chapter 165, I can only blame the other party for giving too much. Brother's specialty is wood-style ninjutsu, which specializes in large-scale, area-based ninjutsu. It requires a huge amount of chakra, but his weakness is his lack of brain power. As for my water-style ninjutsu, be careful not to be targeted by my flying thunder god technique. Given your level of taijutsu, it could be quite dangerous. My weakness is my limited chakra, and this young man using the impure world reincarnation technique hasn't mastered it very well yet, so we can only exert about 30% of our original power. With your strength, if you plan your tactics well, there's a good chance you can successfully seal us. Senju Tobirama continued to share his information with the third Hokage, while, under Orochimaru's control, his hands unconsciously began to form hand seals. Water style, water dragon bullet technique, water style, water dragon bullet technique. Almost as soon as Senju Tobirama completed his technique, Madarumi, facing him, simultaneously used the same technique. The moment the two water dragons collided in midair, they simultaneously transformed into a large number of water droplets, which poured down from the sky. Water style, water severing wave. As the water dragon bullet shattered, Senju Tobirama's figure began to glide rapidly across the water's surface. He formed hand seals with one hand, and the next second, compressed water blades, like water knives, blasted towards the third Hokage and Terumi Mei. Dissolve style, monster dissolving technique. Viscous and highly corrosive acid gushed from Terumi Mei's pink lips. Rapidly cooled by the surrounding water, it quickly transformed into a black rock wall, blocking all of Senju Tobirama's water-severing waves. Dissolve style, Kekkei JK? It seems a ninja who can become a Mizukage has some strength, but still lacks combat experience. Hearing Senju Tobirama's words, Terumi Mei sensed something was amiss. However, just as she sensed danger, Senju Tobirama suddenly appeared from a distance. Space-time ninjutsu. But when exactly? Terumi Mei watched as Senju Tobirama suddenly appeared before her, wielding a kunai, about to strike her neck. Then, upon seeing the shurikens pinned to the rock wall of the dissolving monster technique, she suddenly understood. The water-severing wave he had unleashed had unexpectedly been mixed with shurikens, inscribed with the Flying Thunder God technique. As the Flying Thunder God-style shurikens pierced the rock wall of the dissolving monster technique, Senju Tobirama fulfilled the conditions for using the Flying Thunder God technique. Flying Thunder God slash, facing the second Hokage, who had mastered the Three Moons Blade technique, while Madarumi wasn't completely incompetent in physical techniques. Her level of skill was clearly no match for Senju Tobirama. The third Hokage, standing nearby, attempted to provide support, even extending his Saruma. However, before the Saruma could reach Senju Tobirama, vines sprouted from the ground and bound it securely. Shadaime Hokage, the third Hokage said, turning to look at Hashirama Senju, who stood with his hands clasped together. Hashirama, a look of resignation on his face, said, "I'm sorry, monkey. You know, we can't control ourselves right now." Just as Tobirama Senju's kunai was about to pierce Madarumi's neck, A bone knife suddenly stabbed out from the side, not only blocking Tobirama's kune but also using brute force to send Tobirama flying. Mizukage-sama. Didn't we agree before? If the situation turns out badly, we, the Hidden Mist Village, will simply stand by and watch. Why are you fighting the first and second Hokage? Before going to kill Danzo, Seiya had considered the possibility that Orochimaru would still unleash the first and second Hokage, so he specifically instructed Madarumi to stay as far away from the third Hokage as possible. Even if he was truly affected, as long as he chose to stand by and watch, Orochimaru would most likely not be so reckless as to provoke another Mizukage. After all, Orochimaru first killed the fourth Kazekage and betrayed his teammates, and then killed the third Hokage, which had already completely offended Konoha and Tsunagakure. If he attacked the Mizukage again, he would have offended almost half of the 5 great ninja villages. Without sufficient conflict of interest, Seiya did not think Orochimaru would make such a move. But Seiya never expected that Madarumi would end up being dragged into this by the old third Hokage. In fact, if he had just arrived a little later, Madarumi would probably have been in great danger at the hands of the second Hokage. Seiya, you must watch your words. Konoha and the third Hokage are now important allies of Kirigakure. As allies under a peace treaty, Konoha village is in trouble, so Kirigakure naturally needs their full support. Konoha village will also help Kirigakure restore its former prosperity. Terumi spoke with such righteousness that she practically stood ready to risk her life for her allies. However, Seiya also understood the underlying meaning. If Terumi had known Orochimaru could summon powerful figures, she would have chosen to remain on the sidelines. Of course, the main reason was that the third Hokage offered her so much this time, making it impossible for her to refuse. 3-7 ninja swords, plus the impure world reincarnation technique, seemed like a sure-win deal. But who could have foreseen that what they thought was just a fight against Orochimaru would ultimately unearth 2 of Konoha's greatest deities? Kaguya Seiya, you've finally come. I've been meaning to ask you how you managed to break free from my control of the impure world reincarnation. Ever since Seiya left Itagakure, Orochimaru had been wanting to see him again and ask how he managed to break free from the impure world reincarnation technique. The impure world reincarnation technique was a forbidden technique developed by the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama. Orochimaru had learned it from a Naruto scroll, but he hadn't known that, in addition to the caster's own ability to break free from the impure world reincarnation technique, even the deceased could break free. I understand the impure world reincarnation jutsu better than you imagine, including various methods for breaking it, and what I used is actually just one of them. The second Hokage should also know that impure world reincarnation can dissolve the contract between the deceased and the summoner, but he kept it secret and didn't record it in the Hokage scroll. After all, if the method is leaked out of control, the resurrected dead will become an extremely dangerous double-edged sword for the caster. The resurrected ninja possesses infinite chakra and an immortal body. I think you are well aware of how dangerous it is if they get out of control. The second Hokage didn't want to leave any obvious weaknesses in this jutsu, so he didn't record the method for forcibly breaking the contract in the scroll. If you have any doubts about this, you can release your forced control over the second Hokage now and let him demonstrate it to you. Chapter 166 Corpse Vein vs. Wood Release. The impure world reincarnation jutsu allows the deceased to release their contract with the summoner. Uchiha Madara knew how to do this, and as the creator of this jutsu, the second Hokage couldn't have been unaware of it. In fact, upon realizing he had been summoned by the impure world reincarnation jutsu, Senju Tobirama had considered using this method to break the caster's control over him. Unfortunately, however, due to the previous example of Seiya escaping his control, Orochimaru specifically strengthened his control over the impure world reincarnation jutsu by utilizing Hashirame's cells when summoning the first and second Hokage. This meant that even Senju Tobirama couldn't forcibly break the jutsu while under Orochimaru's control. Of course, if Orochimaru temporarily released his control over the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama would be able to break the impure world reincarnation jutsu's control over him, but the question was, did Orochimaru have the courage to do so? I see. I was wondering why the impure world reincarnation technique I developed seemed to have undergone some refinements. So, the reason for this is you? You must also be a ninja who was resurrected through the impure world reincarnation technique, right? And judging by your condition, you must have forcibly released a contract with a caster. Whether it's the young Mizukage over there, or you, who were able to break free from the impure world reincarnation's control. It seems the hidden mist village of this era is truly formidable. He had developed the impure world reincarnation technique himself, so the second Hokage wouldn't say his technique wasn't good. Seiya, though deceased, looked young, so it's clear he was relatively young. The impure world reincarnation technique he left on the Naruto scroll only contained instructions for its use and removal, with no information on how to forcibly release the contract and escape control. Yet, he was able to do this, which means he developed it himself. Seiya, looking so young yet possessing such prowess, certainly deserves the second Hokage's praise. I didn't expect the impure world reincarnation jutsu actually includes a method for forcibly canceling the contract. But even if you figure out the impure world reincarnation jutsu's weaknesses, what good will it do? The method you master should only be used by the controlled deceased, right? In other words, even if you knew some of the impure world reincarnation jutsu's weaknesses, you can't help the first and second Hokage break free from my control now. Although you're one more person, my advantage remains the same. As a reincarnated ninja, Seiya, you should be aware of this, right? Compared to the first and second Hokage, although their strength is slightly weakened, but they can use unlimited chakra, the already aging third Hokage, the fledgling Mizukage, and finally you, do you really think you have a chance of winning? Although the situation has changed from 3 against 1 as Orochimaru had initially expected to 3 against 3, Orochimaru still remains quite confident in the current situation. His beloved teacher, the third Hokage, had been declining in physical condition even faster than Orochimaru had imagined. After just a few rounds of ninjutsu duels, he was already breathless. The fifth Mizukage, Madarumi, was indeed slightly stronger than the fourth Kazekage, a fact that surprised Orochimaru somewhat, but that was all. As for Seiya, if he hadn't broken free from his impure world reincarnation control, Orochimaru wouldn't have even given him a second glance. Kekkei ninja might be looked up to, but hadn't Orochimaru seen enough of them over the years? Kaguya Seiya? If it weren't for the Shikatsu bloodline, Orochimaru wouldn't even have known such a figure existed in the ninja world. He faced an elderly Hokage, a newly appointed Mizukage, and an unknown Kirito Jonin. On their side stood the renowned god of the ninja world, a genius ninja known throughout the ninja world for treating the tailed beasts like younger brothers, and the master ninja master known as the all-powerful hexagonal master, Tobirama Senju. Orochimaru's fame and power, while slightly behind the first and second Hokage, were still a formidable figure in the ninja world. Given this lineup comparison, Orochimaru wondered how he could possibly lose. Wood release, tree realm descent. As Orochimaru's body erupted like a serpent, Hoshirama Senju, hands clasped together, unleashed his previous wood release map cannon. Hoshirama Senju had previously used tree realm descent, and to counter the wood release's blanketing effect, the third Hokage unleashed a combined earth release and water release jutsu, earth flow river, using surface movement to prevent the tree roots from spreading underground. Madarumi then used her high-pressure water jets from her water style to slice through the thick tree trunks. The combined jutsu of the two cages finally managed to block Hoshirama Senju's wood style. Gazing at the ever-expanding sea of trees, the third Hokage plunged his Sarumo into the ground, forming hand seals and about to use another combined jutsu to block the wood style, when Orochimaru, gliding across the ground in the form of a snake, suddenly sprinted in front of the third Hokage and unleashed the Kusanagi sword. Seeing the third Hokage under attack and the sea of trees steadily encroaching on them, Madarumi considered using boiling style to resist, but a glance at her surroundings instantly halted the idea of using her bloodline. The reason was simple: they were now trapped within the four purple flame formation, a confined space. It wouldn't have been a problem for her, but if she used the boiling style, clever mist jutsu, the acid mist in this confined space would not only harm the enemy but also harm her own comrades. Let's not use boiling release. The acid mist has limited damage to a reincarnated ninja, let alone one as resilient as Orochimaru. The only one who'll suffer in the end is probably the third Hokage. We're all unskilled in sealing techniques, so we'll have to rely on the third Hokage to turn the tide. We can't let him die at this critical juncture. Seiya suddenly appeared before Madarumi. As he spoke, he pressed his hands to the ground before him and unleashed a powerful burst of chakra. Corpse vein, dance of the early ferns. The ground suddenly shook violently, and hideous bone spurs suddenly erupted from the ground like bamboo shoots, bursting forth at astonishing speed. In a matter of moments, a vast forest of bones formed on the ground before Seiya. The massive roots and vines that had been spreading out were now completely pierced by the bone spurs. The entire space of the four purple flame formation was instantly split in two. On one side was a lush, primeval jungle, while on the other was a lifeless, monstrous bone forest littered with the bones. The first Hokage's wood-release ninjutsu was actually blocked head-on. Seeing the shocking scene before them, the Konoha Enbu, who were trapped outside the four purple flame formation, exclaimed in shock. Chapter 167 The corpse bone vein is the strongest defense. In fact, not to mention the supporting cast of Konoha Enbu, even the third Hokage and Orochimaru, who were within the four purple flame formation, were surprised by the scene before them. This was the first Hokage's wood-release ninjutsu. The former god of the ninja world relied on this single technique to beat the nine-tailed beasts like their own sons, overwhelming the entire ninja world. In the eyes of many ninjas in the ninja world, wood release is not only a bloodline, but also a symbol of invincibility. But now, such a powerful wood release was actually being directly resisted by someone using another bloodline. Ha, Tobirama is right. Although I don't know your name, you are indeed a very strong young man. You know, even in my time, anyone who could withstand this jutsu head-on was considered a formidable figure. Are you from the Kaguya clan? I have battled with the members of your clan before, but your strength seems to be far greater than that of your ancestors. Honestly, with the title God of the Ninja World, Seiya will no longer be an unknown figure in the ninja world. The ninja demigod Hanzo of the Salamander simply praised Orochimaru and his group, and the names of the Konoha Sannin resounded throughout the ninja world. And now that Kaguya Seiya has been hailed as the god of the ninja world, wouldn't he soon be given a title like Miss Demigod? After all, no matter what, Hashirama Senju's title of god of the ninja world is far more prestigious than Hashirama's demigod. Hashirama's title of god of the ninja world is universally acknowledged, while Hanzo's demigod is said to be self-proclaimed. If Orochimaru and his companions could earn the title of three ninjas of Konoha after their battle with Hanzo, then surely Seiya's title after his battle with Hashirama Senju must be no less impressive than that. Wood release, diamond calling wood jutsu. As Hashirama Senju formed a hand seal, several thick tree roots in the bone forest where Seiya stood stubbornly broke through the ground and entwined themselves around Seiya's body. However, facing the roots threatening to entangle him, Seiya's body suddenly sprouted new bone spurs. By spinning his body, the spurs transformed into a whirling meat grinder. Corpse vein, Karamatsu dance. The spinning bone spurs, like sharp spinning tops, crushed the thick roots before they even reached him. However, Hashirama Senju soon realized the flaw in Seiya's technique. If he wanted to spin, he needed to use his feet. Wood release, grass knot jutsu. Strands resembling knots of grass roots appeared on the ground around him, restricting Seiya's movements and causing his spinning body to slow rapidly. Simultaneously, the massive tree roots that had been growing from the ground quickly took the form of Hashirama Senju. Wood release, wood clone jutsu. Hashirama Senju suddenly appeared before Seiya. He didn't use any wood release jutsu, but simply delivered a powerful punch to Seiya's face. The newly resurrected Hashirama Senju was already less than 30% of his peak strength. His ultimate moves, such as Sage Mode, were completely unusable in this state. While the wood clone was a physical form, its effectiveness was inferior to the concentrated chakra-powered punch. Indeed, Tsunade's powerful punch wasn't her original creation, it was a fighting style frequently used by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. Through precise chakra control, he concentrated it throughout his body, coating it in blue-purple chakra. Then, he unleashed a powerful burst of air, allowing his physical techniques to unleash immense pressure. Wood style, wood dragon jutsu. The wooden clone, Senju Hashirama, unleashed a powerful punch, striking directly at Seiya's face. Meanwhile, the real Hashirama, on the other side, once again formed hand seals and summoned his toy dragon. He then rode it, also leaping over the bone forest and swooping down towards Seiya from the air. Precise chakra control and focused bursts of energy aren't exclusive to the Senju clan. We, the Kaguya clan, excel at physical combat, can also employ this same fighting style. Single bone, splitting stone. A layer of bone quickly enveloped Seiya's fist. Using the method used in the world of cursed magic to concentrate cursed energy, Seiya, likewise, concentrated chakra within his fist. Now, observing the wooden clone's fist approaching first, he also delivered a powerful punch, showing no sign of weakness. Boom! It was merely the clash of fists, But the aftermath of the battle erupted with a force even more devastating than the roar of a powerful ninjutsu. Crack, soon, accompanied by the crisp sound of splintering wood, the crowd around them was stunned to discover that, after a brief standoff, half of Hashirama Senju's wooden clone had been completely shattered by Seiya. Seiya's powerful punch not only instantly shattered half of the wooden clone, but also, as a massive crack suddenly appeared in the ground, the clone flew backwards and slammed directly into the wall of the four purple flame formation, instantly incinerating. Had Hashirama Senju been in his prime, facing Seiya head-on, it would have been Seiya who took the beating. But Hashirama Senju's current strength was less than 30% of his full potential, and the one who had just attacked was a wooden clone. If he was defeated in such a duel, he might as well surrender. Both rely on precisely controlled chakra bursts for physical skills. Even with comparable chakra levels, Seiya holds the upper hand in a physical duel of fists and feet. The reason for this is that, in addition to his chakra reserves and physical skill, Seiya's katana, corpse bone lineage, bloodline significantly enhances his physical abilities. Before his duel with Hashirama Senju, Seiya used this bloodline to form a hardened periosteum beneath his skin, enhancing both his defense and offensive power. Just how strong is this periosteum's defense? Kimimaro also used this ability during his battle with Gaara. Even facing Gaara's sandstorm funeral, Kimimaro was able to withstand it head-on without a scratch. Seiya's bloodline far surpasses Kimimaro's, so his defensive prowess is undeniable. While Susanoo is often considered the ultimate defense, Seiya believes the Kaguya clan's periosteum defense is equally impressive. After punching the flying wooden clone, Hashirama Senju's true form also swooped down on his wood dragon technique. With the wood dragon technique's range, dodging the attack was clearly a luxury. Even if he used ninjutsu to block it, ordinary ninjutsu wouldn't be able to withstand the massive impact of the wood dragon. So Seiya could only squat, slap his hands to the ground, and once again activate his corpse bone bloodline. Corpse bone bloodline, bone dragon technique. Chapter 168, a 50-50 match with a god of ninja? Roar, sharp bone spikes burst from the ground, and the bones in the surrounding bone forest, as if guided by them, converged around Seiya. Soon, like building blocks, they formed a massive skeletal dragon that circled Seiya. As Hashirama Senju roared down from the sky on his toy dragon, the skeletal dragon circling Seiya roared and flew out as if in defiance. Boom, the wood dragon and the bone dragon collided in midair, sending a terrifying aftermath of the impact sweeping across the surrounding area. The hallmark of wood releases its vitality. When the wood and bone dragons collided and sustained damage, their damaged bodies quickly repaired themselves under the powerful vitality of wood release, and they even attempted to completely restrain the bone dragon with vines that entwined themselves. However, the massive skeletal dragon, originally composed of individual bones, was crushed and restrained, and immediately exploded. The impact of the explosion caused the bone spurs that once formed the skeletal dragon's body to instantly explode in all directions, fueled by the immense propulsion. The wood dragon jutsu, which had been continuously regenerating, was swiftly punctured by the close-range explosion of bone spurs. Even Hashirama Senju, still riding the wood dragon jutsu, watched with astonishment as the sharp bone spurs completely pierced the wood dragon and flew towards him. He had fought Shikigami before, but he had never seen one so powerful. Don't Shikigami ninjas typically use their bones in close combat? But Seiya's Shikigami ninjas had mastered the art. Wood style, wood wall. Watching the incoming bone spurs, Hashirama Senju quickly extended his hands and formed hand seals. Rows of curved wooden pillars suddenly rose from the ground, forming a massive, arched wall before him. As the eggshell-like wooden wall shielded Hashirama Senju, bone spikes instantly pierced it. Though the sharp spikes pierced the wood release technique, they couldn't completely penetrate it. Witnessing this, Seiya sprinted forward and launched a powerful kick directly at the largest spike embedded in the wall. The spike, initially only 3 inches into the wood, was completely breached by Seiya's powerful kick, accompanied by a crisp crack of wood. Even Hashirama Senju, who had been hiding behind the wall, hadn't anticipated Seiya's use of physical techniques to propel the spike even further, completely piercing through the wood release technique and piercing directly into Hashirama Senju's shoulder. A look of surprise crossed Hashirama's face as his shoulder, and even his entire arm, were shattered by the wood release technique. Meanwhile, Seiya's hand, with the word seal written on its palm, grew larger and larger in Hashirama Senju's sight. Seiya wasn't sure if the Tokyo Raven's worlds on Miyagi sealing techniques would be effective against a resurrected ninja, but for now, he had no choice but to try. Just as his palm was about to touch Hashirama's body, Seiya felt a sudden, inexplicable alarm. The next second, a flash of blue passed before him, and the second Hokage, clad in blue Sengoku armor, appeared without warning. The moment he appeared, he raised his sword and slashed off Seiya's arm, which had been extended towards Hashirama. Tisk, another flying thunder god jutsu? That's a tricky ninjutsu. With a flash of blade, one of Seiya's arms flew through the air. The second Hokage, intent on striking again, swung his sword in a split second, but was blocked by the bone blade in Seiya's other hand. But just as the second Hokage intervened, Hashirama Senju's arm, previously pierced by a bone spur, had healed, and with incredible speed, he launched a punch straight at Seiya's face. Seiya, one hand slashed by the second Hokage's flying thunder god slash, was wielding a bone blade with the other to fend off the opponent's attack. So, facing the first Hokage's incredible punch, he had no choice but to take it head-on. While the bones of the corpse bone vein were strong, how many people in the entire ninja world could withstand the incredible strength of the ninja god with their faces? Water style, water formation pillar jutsu, but before Hashirama Senju's fist could strike Seiya, Madarumi, behind him, attacked. From her mouth, a high-pressure jet of water shot past Seiya's body at astonishing speed, impacting both Hashirama and Senju. The powerful water jutsu was incredibly impactful, yet it was instantly split in two by Hashirama's incredible punch. The next second, Hashirama's fist struck Seiya squarely. However, Madarumi's water jutsu provided a buffer, weakening Hashirama's powerful punch and preventing Seiya from being shattered to pieces. With a hole forcibly pierced through his chest, Seiya was sent flying backwards at incredible speed. Ultimately, bone spurs sprouted from his body and pierced the ground, providing a buffer, preventing him from crashing directly into the Four Purple Flame Formation. This so-called Four Purple Flame Formation was essentially a decoration for these impure world reincarnated ninjas. Anyone who forcibly broke through the Four Purple Flame Formation would be burned by the flames, but impure world reincarnated ninjas were invulnerable. Even if burned, they could recover quickly. Seiya had previously relied on this simple and brute force method to enter the formation. But the situation now was different. If the body was severely damaged, rendering it incapable of combat, even if the impure world reincarnation ninja survived, they could still be sealed. Seiya didn't believe the first and second Hokage were completely incapable of sealing techniques. While the impure world reincarnation ninja possessed immortality, their damaged bodies still required time to recover. If the body was severely damaged, rendering it incapable of combat for a short period, the second Hokage, with his ability to wield the flying thunder god jutsu, would not miss the opportunity to seal them. What an amazing young man. You were so nearly killed just now. As Seiya watched his body, which had been sent flying dozens of meters, a large hole in its chest, but was now beginning to repair itself, a look of admiration crossed his face. Although the limitations of the impure world reincarnation ninja meant he was no match for his prime, his carelessness had indeed led to him being nearly sealed by the young man before him. Just by being able to do this, Hashirama Senju felt that Seiya was stronger than most of the opponents he had met before, not to mention that Seiya looked so young. Chapter 169, was Seiya comparable to the god of ninja during his lifetime? Brother, could you please remove your hand from my chest? My body won't be able to recover like this. And with your actions just now, have you considered my feelings? I was the one who saved you, and yet you're planning to punch me and that brat to death. Hearing Tobirama Senju's complaints, Hashirama Senju slowly withdrew his hand from his pierced chest. Facing his brother's aggrieved look, he laughed unapologetically. Sorry, I just thought it was a good opportunity, so I couldn't resist. Anyway, we can't be killed like we are now, so don't be so stingy, Tobirama. At worst, I'll just punch you in the back later. Looking at Hashirama Senju's detached state, Tobirama Senju felt a wave of exhaustion. He wondered if the parents had given their brother most of their chakra and strength, all their brains, when they gave birth to him. Why did he, Tobirama Senju, who was so brilliant, have such a droll and clueless brother? Indeed, Hashirama Senju's earlier punch had not only struck Seiya's head but also pierced Senju Tobirama's body. However, because they were both resurrected through the impure world reincarnation, Both Tobirama's pierced chest and Seiya's previously severed hand were slowly healing under the power of the impure world reincarnation. "Kirito, I'm curious about how you died. With your strength, you would have been a formidable figure in your time, not to mention you were so young. How could anyone in the ninja world back then have been able to kill someone like you?" Although his eldest brother had been out of touch, there was one point in his words that Senju Tobirama agreed with. Seiya was truly a remarkable young man. Although he was from the Kirito, even a discerning man like Senju Tobirama had to acknowledge his strength and talent. Even his eldest brother Uchiha Madara might not have possessed Seiya's strength at Seiya's age. You have to understand that while the resurrected ninjas aren't as powerful as they were in their prime, there's one thing everyone overlooked. Seiya is also a resurrected ninja. They can't fully unleash their former strength, so how could Seiya do that? Because of the second Hokage's words, Orochimaru, Madarumi, the third Hokage, and even the Konoha Enbu, who were just watching from the sidelines, all realized what was happening. Yes, they'd only previously realized that the resurrected first and second Hokage were not as powerful as they were in their prime, but they'd always overlooked the fact that Kaguya Seiya was also a resurrected ninja. The third Hokage and his ninjas were able to fight the resurrected first Hokage and his ninjas on equal terms because they were weakened versions of the resurrected first Hokage. But Kaguya Seiya is also a resurrected ninja, and theoretically, the strength he's currently displaying isn't at his peak. Even with similarly weakened powers, Kaguya Seiya could hold his own against the first Hokage. Doesn't that mean that Seiya, in his lifetime, possessed the strength of a ninja god? Upon discovering this, everyone looked at Seiya with astonishment, especially Arumi Mei, who looked as if she were meeting him for the first time, her expression filled with disbelief. No, if Seiya had been so formidable in his lifetime, why would the Hidden Mist village still be ranked at the bottom of the 5 great ninja villages? It's understandable that Seiya wasn't active during the Ninja World War, but with his prowess, the 4th Mizukage wouldn't have mattered. Furthermore, if Seiya truly had no ambitions for the Mizukage position, with his strength, he wouldn't have remained completely obscure in the ninja world. Was he deliberately hiding his abilities? That's way too low-key. Or was he disillusioned with the ninja world and the Hidden Mist village for some reason, so he chose to retire? Just like Tsunade-sama and Konoha. But if that's the case, why did Seiya, resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, return to the village? Could it be because of me? Terumi Mei suddenly realized how little she knew about Seiya. After this incident was over, she must make a point of learning more about his past. Seiya, clearly unaware of the others, including Terumi Mei, was already fascinated. Why was he so unknown before his impure world reincarnation? It was because he was quite weak in life. Of course, having traveled to the Hidden Mist village, he had deliberately kept a low profile, but he was definitely not the hermit-like master that Terumi Mei and the others imagined. At best, he was on the level of the 7 ninja swordsmen. His current strength was entirely due to the shared and combined power of Seiyas from other worlds. Orochimaru's early impure world reincarnation was only a fraction of the power of an impure world ninja, and the same was true of Seiya, who was brought back from the impure world. However, since he wasn't particularly strong in life to begin with, the original Seiya and the 0.3 Seiya that was reborn through the impure world reincarnation were practically no match for Hashirama and the others. However, it wasn't until after his impure world reincarnation that the cheats were fully realized. The power of the Seiyas from other worlds was shared with him only after his resurrection. This means that even after his resurrection, the difference between the current 0.3 Hokage Seiya and his current impure world reincarnation self is only 0.7 Hokage Seiyas, and the power added to him by the Seiyas from other worlds remains unchanged. But Hashirama and the others are different. Compared to their peak strength, their power has been reduced by a whopping 70%. If we were to create a formula to calculate their combat power, it would roughly be, Impure World Senju Hashirama equals 30% of Prime Senju Hashirama, Impure World Kaguya Seiya equals 30% of Prime Kaguya Seiya plus the power of the Seiyas from other worlds. As we all know, mathematical formulas always multiply before adding, so the difference in combat power between the Impure World Seiya and the resurrected Seiya is not that great. Of course, Seiya knew his explanation was pointless and unlikely to be believed, so he could only claim he died from a congenital disease common to the Hyuga clan. Upon learning of Seiya's untimely death, Hashirama and Senju were both stunned. Seiya's manner of death didn't exactly surprise them. After all, Seiya was a ninja god in his lifetime, The fact that someone in the ninja world could kill him was truly astonishing. Orochimaru, who had been languishing on the other side, began to hesitate after witnessing the battle between Seiya and Hashirama. He was hesitating about his next vessel, Kimimaro or Uchiha Sasuke. Having witnessed the power of the Sharingan from Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru wouldn't hesitate between the two. But now the situation was different. He had never imagined that the corpse vein could be so powerful. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 The Territory Blocks Flying Thunder God. Orochimaru had previously experienced the power of the Sharingan from Uchiha Itachi. Originally, Kimimaro was indeed his next vessel, but after learning of Uchiha Sasuke's existence, Orochimaru changed his mind. After all, while the Shikatsuke was powerful, it still lagged behind the Sharingan he had witnessed from Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Sasuke was Itachi's younger brother, and as brothers, how could the brother be weaker than the elder's bloodline? But now, after witnessing the battle between Seiya and Senju Hashirama, Orochimaru began to hesitate again, realizing that the Shikatsuke used by Seiya and Kimimaro were completely different. Who was Senju Hashirama? He was the god of ninja. Since the founding of the 5 great ninja villages, it was a no-brainer that Hashirama was the strongest ninja. And just how powerful the wood-release bloodline is can be seen simply by how many people, despite the danger of corrosion, were willing to transplant Hashirama's cells into their bodies. As we all know, there are 2 types of wood release. One is Hashirama Senju's wood release, and the other is everyone else's. The Shikatsuji Lee can rival Hashirama Senju's wood release, which means it's a powerful Kekkei in its own right. Kimimaro hasn't fully unleashed its power, but that can only be attributed to his immaturity and inability to master it. However, if Orochimaru were controlling Kimimaro's body, the situation might be different. Unfortunately, Orochimaru's non-corpse reincarnation technique only allows him to acquire 1 Kekkei at a time by switching bodies. If he could acquire both the Shikatsuji Lee and the Sharingan simultaneously, he wouldn't have to hesitate. While Orochimaru was still debating whether to choose Kimimaro, who possessed the Shikatsuji Lee, or Sasuke, who possessed the Sharingan, as his next vessel, Seiya's battle with the 2 Hokage took a surprising turn. Seiya, I'm sorry I couldn't hold back the second Hokage. It's hard to imagine he's not at his peak strength now. If you were still alive, I'd be no match for him. Madarumi landed beside Seiya, looking at his arm and chest, which were slowly healing like shredded paper, and spoke apologetically. She and Seiya had previously agreed on a division of labor, and if she hadn't been able to hold the second Hokage back, Seiya might have succeeded and sealed the first Hokage. It's not your fault. After all, those who master the Flying Thunder God Jutsu are all immortal monsters. It's not just you. Without mastering the same space-time Jutsu, even Uchiha Madara would be helpless. Honestly, with the impure world reincarnation technique and its infinite mana, Seiya felt the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, was far more formidable than Senju Hashirama. Senju Tobirama was already a skilled player, and now with his unlimited mana cheat, he could unleash his Flying Thunder God technique on anyone. Hashirama Senju's advantage was his high health and mana, but in his impure world reincarnation state, this wasn't as effective. After all, no matter how high your health or how strong your vitality, a single sealing technique would essentially annihilate you. On the other hand, Senju Tobirama, with his Flying Thunder God technique, was the second fastest man in the entire ninja world. Using sealing techniques to contain them was no easy task. To seal them, we must first deal with the second Hokage's Flying Thunder God technique. Otherwise, even if we can suppress the first Hokage, the second Hokage will be able to rush to his aid at top speed. Hearing Seiya's words, Terumi sighed helplessly. Everyone understood the principle, but actually achieving it was far from easy. The second Hokage's water-based ninjutsu was no less powerful than hers, but because they were in a confined space, her Kekkei techniques of dissolving and boiling were unsuitable for use. Furthermore, Terumi wasn't a reincarnated ninja like Seiya and the others, and the constant intense fighting had already drained her chakra significantly. If I could trap you in the second Hokage in another enclosed space, would you be sure you could survive him? Hearing Seiya's gentle question, Terumi looked surprised, but soon noticed his seriousness, so she spoke up. If it's about defeating the sealed opponent, I'm not so sure. But if it's just about holding him back while saving my life, it shouldn't be a big problem. While Terumi wasn't sure she could defeat the second Hokage, surviving him wasn't a problem. Not only was the second Hokage not at his peak strength, the mere fact of fighting in a closed space without outsiders was a significant advantage for Terumi. Hearing Terumi's definitive answer, Seiya felt a sense of peace. He simultaneously extended his hand, formed a seal, and created a water clone, unleashing a summoning technique. Summoning technique, Ji Shui Bao. Zhen Shui Yi. Shen Shui Yuan. Bi Shui Yu. A vast cloud of white mist emerged before Seiya, and soon, 4 summoned beasts of different species also suddenly appeared before him. Within the vast cloud of summoning, Seiya's true form erupted, bones forming a spiraling spear from his right arm, charging towards Hashirama Senju. Seeing Seiya charging forward, Hashirama Senju blocked with one hand, instantly forming a circular wood release technique in front of him. The moment the bone spear and wood release technique collided, the massive aftermath forced Hashirama Senju to leap from his position. However, just as Senju Tobirama leaped, Seiya's water clone and Terumi, standing atop the 2 summoned beasts in the white mist, simultaneously completed hand seals and unleashed a combined ninjutsu. Water style, Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu, Lightning style, Thunder Cloud Swamp, combined ninjutsu, Thunder Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu. A ferocious water dragon pierced through the thunder clouds, its previously streamlined form now carrying streaks of thunder due to the conductive nature of water. Seeing the formidable power of the incoming combined ninjutsu, Senju Tobirama chose not to be complacent. He also quickly extended his hands to form hand seals, attempting to defend himself with a water tornado jutsu. The thunder-laden water dragon roared down from the sky, the collision of the water streams instantly causing the surrounding water molecules to reach an extreme density. Water style, Water Whip Jutsu, from the surrounding mist, a whip of water wrapped around Senju Tobirama like a spirit snake. Meanwhile, within the mist, Terumi quickly called out, "Hurry up! This jutsu won't restrain him for long." With his hands bound, Senju Tobirama realized the situation was dire and was about to use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu once more to escape, but Seiya suddenly appeared before him. "Second Hokage, I will not allow you to use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu again. 4 Symbols Domain Barrier Jutsu. 4 Water Sanctuary." Chapter 171 Seiya, don't think you are the only ones who can drive a Gundam. Within the 4 purple flame formation, everyone present was stunned as the figures of Seiya's water clone, Terumi, and the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, vanished simultaneously from view. Meanwhile, within the simple realm, Terumi gazed upon the vast expanse of water surrounding her, the merging waters and sky, a look of profound surprise on her face. An illusion? No, it wasn't that simple. The surrounding water, the breeze, everything felt utterly real. And if it truly was an illusion, she couldn't have been the victim, since the one who had just used it was Seiya, one of her comrades. Senju Tobirama, having freed himself from the water whip's restraints, surveyed his surroundings and initially thought he'd been caught in a jinjutsu. But when he remembered that reincarnated ninjas weren't susceptible to illusions, he was shocked to discover that he couldn't sense the Flying Thunder God technique he'd inscribed on his elder brother. "I see. I didn't expect you could even use space-time ninjutsu, and such a unique one at that." The 4 summoned beasts weren't meant to participate in combat, but to construct a formation, using the barrier's deployment technique to complete the space-time ninjutsu. "I didn't expect you, at your age, to have developed such a remarkable technique. You truly are a formidable talent." The second Hokage, an expert in developing ninjutsu, simply glanced around, recalling Seiya's previous arrangements, and instantly understood everything. Space-time ninjutsu is inherently difficult, and only a handful of ninjas in the entire ninja world can master it. Yet, Seiya, so young, not only mastered it, but used the even more challenging space-time barrier technique to create this independent dimension. With such talent and ability, even his contemporaries would likely be dwarfed by Seiya's. So this is an independent dimension, and all of this is real? Is this even possible with ninjutsu? Compared to Senju Tobirama, who had some knowledge of space-time ninjutsu, Terumi was the most astonished person present. She had never imagined that Seiya had hidden so much from the village. The Shikatsu bloodline, the vast chakra capacity, the impressive taijutsu and swordsmanship, and finally, the summoning of spirit beasts and this unknown, mysterious dimension. This man before her, what else could he not do? If Madarumi had known how powerful Seiya was, she wouldn't have asked Konoha for such a high price. If she had known how powerful Seiya was, she would have contacted NERvGear long ago and completely overthrown Konoha. Ming, it's up to you, the fifth Mizukage, from now on. I might not be able to help in the subsequent battles. Hearing Seiya's words, Madarumi looked bewildered. On the other hand, Senju Tobirama, standing across from them, crossed his arms and said, compared to this brat, you, the Mizukage, are far inferior in both observation and strength. The answers are obvious, aren't they? Right now, that brat is just a water clone. If he's defeated, do you think this dimension can continue to exist? As if to confirm Senju Tobirama's words, the water beneath them suddenly rippled violently. A massive white whale suddenly leaped from the water, swallowed Seiya's water clone in one gulp, and then dived back into the water to escape. This smooth, unhesitating act of betraying a teammate left Madarumi speechless. Although she had already prepared to face the second Hokage alone. That bastard Seiya was being too decisive. A beautiful, unmarried woman like her, wasn't he afraid of her own death at the hands of the second Hokage? If the fleeing Seiya knew of Tarumi's meditation technique, he would undoubtedly cry out in injustice. It wasn't that he didn't know how to be gentle with women or that he was afraid of death, but as a water clone, he was not only too fragile but also had limited strength. If his water clone was defeated, the simplified domain would disappear, and all his efforts would be wasted. Moreover, before entering the simplified domain, Seiya had consulted Tarumi Mei, who had given him a guarantee. Outside the simplified domain, watching Tarumi Mei and his younger brother disappear into the four purple flames formation, Hoshirama Senju also realized that the technique Seiya used was probably a space-time ninjutsu. So, Hoshirama Senju couldn't help but admire him, saying, I originally thought that, with your chakra capacity and fighting style, you'd be a ninja of my type. But now it seems I was wrong. With your superb taijutsu and swordsmanship, as well as your extremely difficult space-time ninjutsu, and your meticulous calculations in combat, your fighting style is clearly more like Tobirama's. In previous battles, Hoshirama Senju had assumed that Seiya, like himself, relied purely on brute force. But when he saw how Seiya separated himself from Tobirama and mastered various difficult ninjutsu, Hoshirama realized that, like his brother, Seiya fought with his brains. How should he put it? Fighting with brains isn't bad, but the current Seiya didn't quite suit his tastes. Compared to Tobirama, who could even use his ninjutsu to fool around, Hoshirama preferred the head-on, hard-fought, Chuonibyo-inducing style of Uchiha Madara. As Seiya and Senju Hoshirama engaged in a high-speed physical duel, the four purple flame formation was now riddled with pits and craters. On the other side, the third Hokage had already entered the epic, life-threatening phase of the original storyline. Using his Shiki Fujin, he now diligently pulled at Orochimaru's soul. Unwilling to remain trapped like this, Orochimaru now exerted all his might to activate the curse seals on Senju Hoshirama, preventing him from escaping and unleashing his full power. Upon observing the seals formed by his hands, Senju Hoshirama's expression changed, exclaiming, "Oh no! This is wood release, woodman jutsu." As Senju Hoshirama clasped his hands together, a massive tree root suddenly broke through the ground, growing at astonishing speed into a towering tree, which quickly transformed into a gigantic wooden man entwined with a wooden dragon. Seiya, watching the massive wooden man, comparable to a fully formed Susanoo, rise from the ground, bore down on his face. The wood figure jutsu is a high-level wood release ninjutsu, and it's also supposed to be Hoshirama Senju's strongest ninjutsu outside of Sage Mode. Seiya hadn't expected that Hoshirama Senjutsu, resurrected by Orochimaru during this period, could even use this ninjutsu. It's completely different from the original storyline in terms of power. In the original storyline, the first and second Hokage in Konoha's collapse plan were easily sealed by the third Hokage's clones. Damn, here he is, the second Hokage can use Flying Thunder God, and the first Hokage can even use the wood figure jutsu. There's no way, it seems I can't hold back any longer. Corpse veins, Bone Shura jutsu. It's just driving a Gundam, but he acts as if no one else can. Chapter 172 Bone Hyperplasia vs Vegetative State. As numerous bone spurs sprouted from Seiya's body, his original form was quickly completely covered in a web of white bones. The surrounding structures, like stack blocks, continued to rise, until a massive body, comparable to a wooden figure, stood before them. The surrounding Konoha ninjas, as well as the Itoshi Four who formed the Four Purple Flame Formation, were stunned by the two colossal figures that suddenly rose from the barrier. The Four Purple Flame Formation was a high-level barrier technique, powerful enough to trap even cage-level ninjas. However, the sheer size of the wooden figures and skeletons that suddenly rose from the ground was too great. The surrounding purple crystal barrier was now cracked like a spiderweb of glass. Even though the Itoshi Four had already entered the cursed seal II state and were straining their chakra to the limit to maintain the Four Purple Flame Formation, they were completely unaware of the situation. But soon, accompanied by a simultaneous spit of blood from all four, the already barely maintained Four Purple Flame Formation finally cracked under the weight and shattered beneath the massive wooden figure and skeleton. Previously, due to the Four Purple Flame Formation's obstruction, the battle within the barrier had appeared intense, but the Konoha envoy guarding it hadn't yet fully grasped its severity. But when the Four Purple Flame Formation completely shattered, the overwhelming pressure of Hashirama Senju's wooden figure technique and Seiya's Bonajira technique, their massive bodies, overwhelmed them. The surrounding Konoha ninjas belatedly realized that the intensity of the battle far exceeded their comprehension. Standing atop the wooden figure, Hashirama Senju gazed upon the massive skeletal form before him, whose power rivaled his own, and a look of astonishment crossed his face. "It's truly astonishing. I never thought you could achieve such a feat. What a shame. If you had lived in our time, besides Madara, I might have had a formidable opponent." The so-called Bonshira technique is actually a bloodline technique developed by Seiya based on the Woodman technique in Susanoo. The Shikatsu can control the extension and growth of one's bones, so with sufficient chakra, one could theoretically achieve a Gundam-like power. As for why other Shikatsu users of the Kaguya clan couldn't do it, Seiya could only explain that their chakra reserves didn't allow it. Just like Hashirama Senju's would release, without a vast chakra base, this bloodline is only slightly stronger than the average. The Kaguya clan's chakra reserves are limited, so the Shikatsu's use relies more on integrating their own physical skills. However, Seiya is a special case. With countless Seiya standing behind him, his chakra is destined to only grow stronger in the future. With a vast chakra foundation, the bloodline's development naturally opens up a wider range of possibilities. As bloodline descendants, Vegetative Man and Pink Eyes can drive Gundams, so it stands to reason they can't have bone hyperplasia. Speaking of prestige, the Senju and Uchiha clans are the reincarnations of Ashura and Indra, and their Kaguya clan even shares the same name as Kaguya Otsutsuki. The ultimate killer move, Joint Ash Bones, is also a forbidden technique of their Shikatsu clan. Regardless of how you look at it, the Shikatsu clan, as a bloodline, is undoubtedly no less powerful than the Senju and Uchiha clans in terms of prestige. With the Four Purple Flame Formation shattering, and the sudden appearance of two behemoths in Konoha village, more and more Konoha ninjas flock to the scene. The Four Purple Flame Formation is broken. We must rush to Hokage-sama, the Konoha Enbu, who had been waiting outside the Four Purple Flame Formation, upon seeing the barrier broken, immediately remembered the Hokage's safety as their top priority and hurriedly flew towards the battlefield where the third Hokage was. Sadly, by the time they reached the third Hokage, he had already been pierced through the chest by Orochimaru's Kusanagi sword, and was practically on the verge of death. Kakashi, Might Guy, and other Jonin, having dealt with the other Tsunagakure ninjas in the examination hall, rushed over after seeing the dissipated Four Purple Flame Formation. "Where are the medical ninjas? Hurry and get some to heal Hokage-sama." When Kakashi and the others arrived and saw the dying third Hokage, their expressions were filled with anxiety. Asuna, the third Hokage's son, dropped his cigarette as he watched his father's breath gradually fade. "Don't waste your energy. I've already surrendered my soul to the god of death by using the Shiki Fujin. No medical treatment will be effective. I've sealed Orochimaru's hands, so he won't be able to cause trouble in Konoha anytime soon. After I die, bring back Jiraiya and Tsunade, and have one of them succeed the Hokage. We also made a promise with the Hidden Mist village, and we've fulfilled it. The fifth Mizukage and that Kaguya Seiya are no ordinary figures. Konoha shouldn't be hostile to them these days. The Hidden Mist village is merely being used by Orochimaru. If they surrender, don't oppress them excessively. Konoha village can't withstand this. Finally, I'll leave Konoha village in your care, since the third Hokage only used the Shiki Fujin to seal Orochimaru. His death wasn't as rapid as in the original storyline. When Kakashi and the others arrived, he gave him many instructions before finally passing away. He had originally considered reneging on his promise with the fifth Mizukage, believing his death would erase his debt. However, after witnessing everything that had happened before, the third Hokage ultimately abandoned this idea. The reason was simple: Kaguya Seiya's power was simply too terrifying. After his death, Konoha village would be left without a leader capable of carrying the brunt of the situation. Yet, Kaguya Seiya had single-handedly trapped the second Hokage and even challenged the first Hokage. To make an enemy of such a powerful ninja for a mere profit was utterly unwise. Furthermore, Konoha, currently in turmoil, no longer had the confidence to turn hostile. The Hidden Mist village was vastly separated from Konoha, making it less likely than other ninja villages to cross the mountains and attack Konoha. Given the already established friendship, the third Hokage naturally hoped to maintain it. At least until Konoha could overcome its most difficult period, NERvGear was undoubtedly a suitable ally. The third Hokage passed away with his final words, but the flames of war raging within Konoha village remained undimmed. Although Orochimaru ran away, the first and second generation Hokage who were resurrected by the impure world reincarnation have not been dealt with yet. Chapter 173 Gundam Battle, the resealed first and second generations. The third Hokage had passed away, but the war hadn't died. The invading Tsunagakure ninjas were relatively easy to deal with. Konoha, with its home field advantage, had gradually overwhelmed the enemy. But as they gazed upon the two massive figures at the center of Konoha, the ninja present felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Boom! As the wooden figure's wooden dragon punch collided with a bone sword of the white bone Asura, the entire earth shook violently, as if trembling. The mere aftermath of the impact cracked the ground, and countless buildings collapsed in an instant. This is like the Night of the Nine Tails all over again. We're completely powerless in a battle of this magnitude, damn it. How did it come to this? This behemoth, comparable to a tailed beast, is actually considered a ninjutsu. During the Night of the Nine Tails, the fourth Hokage died protecting the village, and now it's the third Hokage again. Even more ironic, the enemy in this battle is the first Hokage, the man who founded Konoha village, while the ones protecting us, the Hidden Mist village, are the Konoha ninjas. Watching the giant wooden figures and skeletal shuris clash, each strike shaking the earth, many Konoha ninjas pounded their fists into the ground in frustration. Once, their Konoha village had been so glorious, but now it had fallen to a state of desolation, unable to even protect itself. The Will of Fire would endure, but in their generation, the flames no longer shone with the same brilliance. Many Konoha ninja considered going up to help, at least to ensure Konoha's fate wouldn't rest entirely on a single ninja from another village. Unfortunately, facing a battle of this magnitude, they had no room to intervene. Fire style, Ashburn, a cloud of black smoke, laced with sparks, erupted into the battlefield. Far more powerful than many Konoha ninjas' previous fire style, it instantly consumed the tree roots beneath Hashirama Senju's wooden man technique, transforming it into a sea of flames. Earth style, earth flow wall. After Asuna used fire style, Kakashi, who had already removed his forward protector, revealing his Sharingan, quickly formed hand seals with both hands and slammed them to the ground. A wall of earth suddenly rose from beneath the wooden man's feet. As the wall lifted from the ground, the giant wooden man, 1 foot lifted up, instantly lost his balance and stumbled back 2 steps. 8 gates of Ninkajutsu, 7th gate, shocking gate, open, daytime tiger. As the wooden figure stumbled backward, Might Guy, leaping high, instantly opened the 8 gates of Ninka to the 7th. With a breathtaking burst of chakra, Might Guy launched a powerful punch. A concentrated, ultra-high-speed punch, compressing the air before expanding it in a single breath. The air cannon resembled a roaring white tiger, crashing directly into the wooden figure. The immense force of Daytime Tiger's impact sent the massive figure reeling back 100 meters. However, seeing that even his strongest Daytime Tiger could only push the wooden figure back, not knock him down, Might Guy hesitated. He gazed at the devastated Konoha surrounding him. Just as he was about to make his move, he saw a massive figure suddenly soar past him. Seiya was somewhat surprised by the sudden entry of several elite Jonin from Konoha into the fray, but he wouldn't miss such a golden opportunity. Originally, he and Hashirama Senju were evenly matched, both in their infinite mana impure world reincarnation state. Even with a mana-draining Gundam, they could still fight to the bitter end. But now, with the intervention of Kakashi and the others, even if their help wasn't significant, it was enough to tip the balance. Seeing the wooden figure being pushed back 100 meters by the day tiger, Seiya charged forward. Before Hashirama Senju could react, he raised his bone sword and continued his rapid slashing, instantly cleaving the wooden figure's jutsu into several pieces. Reikiri, with his wooden figure's jutsu severed, Hashirama fell from the air. Kakashi, who had been waiting on the ground, his Sharingan whirled rapidly. After capturing Hashirama Senju's movements with the Sharingan's excellent dynamic vision, Kakashi's arm also burst into lightning, and rushed towards the opponent at an extremely astonishing speed, with a final blow piercing Hashirama Senju's heart. Because he was in the state of impure world reincarnation, even with his heart pierced, Hashirama Senju was still able to fight at this moment, but Kirito also slowly walked out from the side and formed hand seals to perform a sealing technique. Kirito was good at illusion, but illusion had no effect on impure world reincarnation, so she had been setting up sealing techniques until Kakashi used Reikiri to rush the first Hokage here. Finally, we were defeated by the Konoha ninja. How wonderful. I apologize for causing you trouble this time. Please also thank that young man from NERvGear. If it weren't for him, Konoha village, the culmination of so many people's efforts, might have been destroyed by me. Hashirama Senju, whose chest was pierced by Reikiri, still had room to struggle. However, looking at the devastation surrounding Konoha, he even briefly broke free from the impure world reincarnation's control. Untangling one's own inner knots and thus attaining Buddhahood is also a way to escape the impure world reincarnation's control. However, before achieving Buddhahood, Hashirama Senju's body was engulfed in a mass of red leaves. Then, with a red seal, the sealing technique completely enveloped the human-shaped leaf cocoon. Seeing the first Hokage successfully sealed, Kakashi and the others beamed with relief, while the other Konoha ninjas around them cheered with joy at their victory. Shortly after the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, was sealed, Seiya released his simplified domain, and a weakened Madarumi and Seiya's water clones appeared at the same spot. Kakashi and the others, who had been on high alert, were stunned when they saw that only the fifth Mizukage and Seiya's water clones had appeared. Mizukage-sama, where's the second Hokage, who was resurrected by the impure world reincarnation? Seiya, having released his water clone jutsu and regained the relevant memories, looked at Madarumi with a hint of surprise. Hearing Kakashi and the others' questions, Madarumi pulled out a bundle of sealing scrolls from behind her and handed them to the Konoha ninja, saying, "Thank goodness, you have fulfilled your mission." Within these scrolls lies the sealed second Hokage. Mizukage-sama actually defeated the second Hokage single-handedly. Kakashi and the others were even more astonished by Madarumi's words. It's not considered a single-handed defeat. Seiya's barrier technique blocked the second Hokage's flying thunder god technique. And those four summoned beasts also helped me a lot in the end. Chapter 174 Post-war negotiations between the three ninja villages. Madarumi wasn't lying. If she weren't inside Seiya's so-called domain barrier, even the second Hokage, at only a fraction of his full strength, wouldn't have stood much of a chance against her in a one-on-one fight. In that domain, with nothing but a nearly endless expanse of water, the second Hokage's flying thunder god technique was useless. Besides the initial impact, in that environment, Madarumi discovered that her water-based ninjutsu had become significantly stronger than usual. Although Seiya had left her to fight alone, he was secretly manipulating the water in the area to provide cover and support. Furthermore, the enclosed space allowed Madarumi's two Kekai techniques, dissolution and boiling, to their full potential. The space within the simple domain was limited, and Madarumi spent considerable time completely filling it with her acid mist. Unless the second Hokage could break through the barrier, there was no escape. The acid mist was insoluble in water, and the second Hokage had no choice but to either dive into the water or endure its effects. However, within the so-called four water sanctuaries, Seiya possessed absolute control over the waters within his domain, and venturing underwater was a sure death. The second Hokage, recognizing this, relied on condensing chakra to resist the acid mist from Madarumi. While it's true that reincarnated ninjas possess unlimited mana, their chakra reserves remain constant. Senju Tobirama used excess chakra for defense, leaving less available for combat. Consequently, when the acid mist concentration within the domain reached a critical point, Senju Tobirama was slain by his water clones and Madarumi. With a reincarnated first and second Hokage sealed away, the Konoha collapse plan finally came to an end. Overall, while Konoha village had won, it was a bitter victory. Not to mention the many ninjas killed in the attack, as they weren't famous, They haven't even been mentioned. After all, in the ninja world, death is commonplace. The exact number of casualties is still being tallied. Most devastatingly, the third Hokage, the pillar of the village, tragically passed away in this attack. Konoha village was once so powerful that even during the Ninja World War, it often fought against multiple ninja villages alone, always emerging victorious. But this time, not only was they attacked at home, but even the village's protector, the Kage, was killed. This was undoubtedly a devastating blow to the entire village. Of course, Konoha wasn't the only one suffering. After all, despite the heavy losses, they were still the victors. The losers, the Sand Village, were truly left with nothing. They had originally joined forces with Orochimaru's Itagakure, intending to make a killing in Konoha. Instead, they achieved nothing. Not only did they lose a Kazekage, but they will likely have to pay Konoha a substantial amount in compensation after the war. In Konoha village, in the Hokage's office building, 3 days had passed since the Konoha collapse plan was launched. During this time, the entire village had fallen into a state of despair due to the death of the third Hokage. The Hokage, the pillar of a ninja village, had died, but the village could not cease operations. Due to the ongoing post-war mess, the third Hokage's funeral had to be postponed. Now, the post-war affairs of several ninja villages needed urgent attention. With the third Hokage's death, Konoha village was temporarily without a leader, so 2 veteran members of the Elders' Council, Kaoru Utatane and Enma Midokado, were once again called into action. As members of the Elders' Council, Danzo was entitled to attend this meeting. However, both Kaoru Utatane and Enma Midokado saw Danzo's influence in this incident, and the two, extremely angry, had, in a rare move, united to boycott the meeting. At the long table in the Hokage's office, Enma Midokado and Kaoru Utatane sat at the head, with Kakashi and other Konoha Jonin standing behind them. On the left sat the 5th Mizukage, Madarumi, and behind her stood Seiya, who looked unconcerned. Opposite Madarumi sat the representative of the Sand Village, a Sand Village Jonin named Maki. After all, the 4th Kazekage, Raza, was also embarrassed during this commotion. There were 3 ninja villages present, but there was only one Kage, Madarumi, and the atmosphere was quite awkward. However, the people from the other 2 ninja villages represented their own villages, so they were qualified enough to sit at the same table with the Mizukage. Regarding the deal between the 3rd Hokage and Madarumi, Konoha had no intention of reneging, although Utain Kaoru and Midokado found it a little hard to accept that the forbidden technique developed by Tobirama-sensei was passed on to other ninja villages. But after listening to Kakashi say that this was the last words of their old friend Sarutobi Hiruzen, the two no longer objected. Although Utain Kaoru and Midokado were a bit pedantic, they were not stupid and naturally understood why Sarutobi did this. Therefore, in this post-war meeting, the negotiations with the Hidden Mist Village were quite smooth. However, in the negotiations with the Hidden Sand Village, Konoha and Tsunagakure started arguing fiercely. But this is not surprising. After all, the Hidden Mist Village was just a passerby involved in this incident, and Konoha and Tsunagakure had only fought this one battle, and many people on both sides died at the hands of the other. But again, death is not uncommon in the ninja world. The key point is the interest relationship. When talking about the issue of post-war compensation, Konoha and Tsunagakure had a big disagreement. As a defeated ninja village, it is reasonable that they need to pay compensation, but the Tsunagakure village could not accept the amount proposed by Konoha. We in Sand Village cannot accept Konoha's compensation plan. How many ninjas have died in Konoha? We in Sand Village have lost even more this time. Moreover, most of the damaged buildings in your village were caused by your own first Hokage and the Kirigakure ninjas over there. Why should we in Sand Village compensate for the losses? Maki immediately jumped up at the amount of compensation proposed by Utatane Kaoru and the others, because the amount was too outrageous. If their Sand Village had that much money, would they have needed to rob Konoha this time? Our village even lost the 3rd Hokage this time. Do you think it's too much to ask you to compensate for this small loss? When it came to the interests of the village, Utatane Kaoru spoke up like a heroine. The 3rd Hokage was killed by Orochimaru. What does that have to do with us, the Sand Village? Our 4th Kazekage was also killed. We, the Sand Village, are also victims this time. If you want compensation, you should go to Orochimaru. It's none of our business. Maki looked at the old woman in front of him and didn't give the senior in the ninja world any face at all. He looked like a tough guy who had no money but his life. Chapter 175, Seiya, you don't want the tailed beasts? Then give them to me. Seeing Maki's relentless attitude, Kahoru, though irritated, remained resigned. The Sand Village, now truly, was a place where even the barefoot had no fear of wearing shoes. The village was already impoverished, even the fourth Kazakage had been backstabbed by Orochimaru. Compared to Konoha, they were truly at the end of their rope. At this point, if Konoha continued to press the issue, the possibility of the Sand Village resorting to desperate measures could not be ruled out. If there isn't sufficient war reparations, we can use supplies of a corresponding value instead, Midamanen offered. However, facing Konoha's proposed solution, Maki remained unyielding. Their local specialties were already scarce, and if they were to resort to mortgaging the reparations, it was very likely that the Sand Village would decline to the point of being expelled from the 5 great ninja villages. In that case, let's consider Shukaku, the one-tailed beast, as compensation for this loss to Konoha Village. As weapons of war, the tailed beasts are quite valuable, right? This deal is a huge win for Konoha. Maki, who had initially considered refusing the material pledge, suddenly proposed this when he realized that their Sand Village seemed to have another tailed beast besides Sand. For the Sand Village, the current one-tailed Jinchuriki, Gaara, was not well received. After the death of the fourth Kazakage, Raza, they didn't even have anyone who could stop Gaara's rampage. While the tailed beasts were valuable assets for a controllable Jinchuriki, the one-tailed beast was a real challenge for the current Sand Village. Are you kidding me? Can a tailed beast be used as war reparations? And technically, Tsunagakure's one-tailed beast, Shukaku, was originally allocated to your village by our first Hokage, right? Now you're using the tailed beast that our first Hokage allocated to your village to compensate Konoha for its losses. Tsunagakure is really overthinking it. Kahoru and Mitokado were naturally unconvinced by the idea of using the one-tailed beast as compensation. Konoha already had one 9-tailed beast, and now another. Tsunagakure was probably trying to destroy them. The two villages' mutual disdain for the tailed beasts left Seiya speechless. If the situation hadn't been inappropriate, he would have offered to give them all to the Hidden Mist village. Hashirama Senju had distributed the tailed beasts equally among the major ninja villages to maintain stability in the ninja world. In the eyes of the ninja of that generation, the tailed beasts were considered extremely powerful weapons of war. But now, times have changed, and the ninja world's ninja ranks have steadily declined. The tailed beasts, once used as thugs and fighting force, have become uncontrollable due to the overall decline in ninja skill, gradually becoming a catastrophic and hot potato. The major ninja villages now tend to ignore or even neglect the tailed beasts. Aside from the Kumagakure, which exploits the Jinchuriki's power to the utmost, Konoha's treatment of the 9 tails is simply imprisonment and surveillance. The Iwagakure allowed the 4 tails to become a rebellious ninja, completely ignoring them. The Mistgakure has made no effort to search for the 3 tails since the death of the 4th Mizukage, the 3 tails Jinchuriki. The Sand Village is even more deplorable. Even Gaara's father, the 4th Kazakage, Raza, has always hated his child, even wishing for his swift demise. While Naruto's childhood is often described as bleak, few people know that the Calabash brothers were the Jinchuriki whose childhood was darkest. No matter how hard Naruto's life was, his parents still loved him. And while the villagers rejected and hated him, there were still those who wanted to kill him, though not entirely absent, at least not many. Calabash Brothers was different. From the moment he was born, everyone believed he had killed his mother. It was one thing for everyone around him to fear, hate, and ostracize him. But even his closest relatives, his father and uncle, wanted to kill him, and his sister and brother were equally terrified of him. It's not that he had no family, but it was that his family wanted to kill him. This despair was far darker than Naruto's loneliness. Gaara, betrayed by those closest to him and plagued by constant sleepless fear, would have died countless times if it weren't for his mother's love. Compared to that, Naruto's childhood spent eating expired instant noodles and being isolated from others was child's play. Just like this time, Gaara was used as a weapon to capture Konoha, but the operation failed, and with no further use, he was sold off by the village. Seiya was somewhat tempted by the 5th Kazakage's potential, and he was also considering whether to lure Gaara to their Kirigakure. Maki Jounin, since Konoha doesn't agree with you taking the one tail as post-war compensation, why don't you sell it to us in Kirigakure? Seiya's sudden words stunned everyone present. Normally, As a mere guard, Seiya wouldn't have the right to speak at a high-level ninja village meeting like this. However, Seiya was no ordinary guard. In this Konoha-destroying plan, the combat prowess he displayed was undeniable, and his words commanded the attention of everyone present. Mizukage-sama, does what Kaguya-Joun and Seiya said truly represent your opinion? Utatane Kaoru asked, looking at the equally surprised Terumi Mei. After a moment's pause, Mei Terumi finally nodded and said, if the Sand Village is willing to hand over the one-tailed Jinchuriki to the Kirigakure, we, the Kirigakure, are willing to compensate them for their losses. Mei Terumi didn't know what Seiya wanted with a one-tail, but she chose to trust him. Seiya had never disappointed her. If Seiya did this, there must be a reason for it, even if Mei Terumi couldn't yet imagine how the tailed beasts could be of any use to the Kirigakure. Seeing Mei Terumi's ready agreement, Maki of the Sand Village in Konoha's Utatane Kaoru began to hesitate. While they also believed that the current tailed beasts would only bring disaster to the village and were practically useless, they couldn't help but make up their own minds. From the Kirigakure's previous performance, it was clear that Kaguya Seiya was a powerful figure with both strength and means. Their current interest in the one tail meant that it must be special, or perhaps they had the means to control it. After all, the fifth Mizukage and Seiya weren't fools. If the one tail was useless and only brought trouble to the village, why would they pay such a high price for it? In short, the Hidden Mist village was now stronger than they had anticipated, and aiding the enemy was now unacceptable. Utatane Kaoru and Maki exchanged a glance, their minds coming to the same conclusion and quickly reaching a consensus. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.